Good evening, everyone. I will call this May 7th regular meeting of the Hopewell Borough Council to order. Christine, if you could read the sunshine statement.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice mailed to the Hopewell Valley News and the Trentonian, posted on the bulletin board in Borough Hall and filed with the Borough Clerk as required by law.
You could, if you're able, join me standing for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would be so kind to do the roll call.
Mayor Kennedy,
Here.
Mr. Buddha,
Here.
Mr. Fuller,
Here.
Ms. Hook, here, Ms. Steeler, here, Ms. Weaver, here, Ms. Valenius, here.
Sorry, for all these years, I should be better at putting on jackets than that. Sure. Tonight, we have three proclamations. We won't necessarily read them all, but I want to recognize this month as being Older Americans Month. Very excited. Many of you have perhaps been at these ceremonies, but our eighth graders at our middle school each year do a project with a what's called a witness stone ceremony. This proclamation is thanking and honoring them for this year's project. Some of the ceremonies have been here in Hopewell Borough, and there's actually a witness stone placed in the sidewalk in front of the Old Baptist Meeting House in recognition of an enslaved resident of our area. This year's ceremony is going to be at the high school so that more eighth graders can actually attend, but this is recognizing that, and then recognizing September as Bike Safety Month. Chris, if you want to add to that.
It's May.
Well,
I was wondering why we were doing it in September.
No,
apologies.
We're September.
No
No problem.
well, this month, May,
Maybe both months.
will be.
For a minute, I was like, I don't know.
Apologies, but recognizing, so any other than giant mistakes that I've made in reading it, if you want to add anything about the about Bike Safety Month.
Just a celebration of Bike Safety Month, and it really aligns with our previous commitments to Vision Zero and complete streets and encouraging biking as a healthy alternative to driving, and also trying to make our streets safe enough so that people feel comfortable biking.
Great. Next, we have our reports on our DPW and water and sewer. If anyone in council has a question or comment for our administrator on those, now would be the time.
Just a real quick comment on the public works. I know they put up the signs for the parade on West Broad. If there's any way that the merchants can help out by having that happen like on Saturday morning instead of Friday morning, or the later that can be, it does impact merchants. People unfortunately don't read that the signs say Sunday. What can I say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's been a helpful thing in the past to.
Yeah, and the merchants are happy to help with, you know, the physical putting up, because I think DPW obviously is an off.
Next.
That's just the stretch in front of merchants.
Next item, so on each one of our agendas, we have an update on the sale of our water system. Lately, that we still appear to be on track for an early summer, end of June, early July closing and transfer. A lot more information on that to come as we approach it, but a few other pieces. This week there was a flow test that was done successfully, and thank everyone for their patience if there was a little loss of water pressure earlier in the week. We'll also be sending out an announcement in about not this next week, but the week after. There will be some Hope Borough and New Jersey American employees going around town for some additional inventory of equipment, I think, and water meters. So nothing for this one, no need to go in anyone's home, but that will be happening soon. We'll be sending information out on that. Next item is our first of several public comment opportunities. We do have two public hearings this evening on ordinances. Of course, you can make comments on any topic you'd like during the two general public comment sessions. But if your comment is on one of the ordinances, like for example, four-way stops, it would be best if you can make your comments during the public hearing on that. It becomes part of the record for the discussion that will be coming up shortly. So with that, I'll open the meeting to the public. Mayor and council will take comments first from members of the public attending in person, and then from members attending via Zoom. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes, more or less, though we tend not to try to force that if we can. No immediate action will be taken on any public comment issue. We'll do our best to respond, and if we can't, get back to you with information that you're needing. To make a comment or ask a question during the meeting via Zoom, push the raised hand feature or button, and we will get to you after the in-person comments. So if you're here, come on up to the front.
Hi, everyone. David Waldman, Borough resident. Two things unrelated, and one is not really on your platter, but it was just a question in terms of the awareness, particularly relating to bikes and pedestrians. New Jersey just recently, as you probably all know, passed that e-bike law. And I think it's gonna become effective in certain ways regarding liability and insurance and real IDs and all that stuff in the next 6 months. And I'm just wondering if you have any information on how it's gonna be dealt with, what the police are thinking about doing, how it's gonna be enforced. And a little footnote to that is I'm just beginning to get into it, and there's a significant movement that is not within your jurisdiction, but it's just an awareness raising that affects me and makes me feel a little bit hurt that that the move, because of its requirements of real ID, seems to be retaliatory and seems to be working against a lot of people who rely on e-bikes for their jobs, like whether it's DoorDash, food delivery, or just people who, for whatever reason, can't go to the DMV, blah, 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 you all know what I'm saying. So, I'd love to hear what the borough's thinking and how's that happening.
Thank you. I will turn it over to Council President Steeler, who's been working with the library and programming on that. So I'll let you talk about what's coming up. I think we have it.
Yeah, so on June 10th, on Wednesday night, we're going to be hosting an event at the Hopewell Presbyterian Church. We were partnering with the police department, who's going to be putting out informational brochures in both English and Spanish. I've talked to a woman in town that teaches ESL, English as a second language. She's going to help distribute them. The Guatemalan store, I'm working with them. They're also going to be distributed to the people that utilize that store. Lynn, I mentioned to her quickly because we were passing on the street one day that I want to, work with her for her, because she works with that community a lot as well. And then, so the police will be there, and then Mike Gray from Sarah Lynn Cycles, who's a big advocate for e-bikes, and he's been working with the state. I believe will also very much try to get things moderated a little bit, but at least we'll be able to share information as to what's going into effect in July.
That's great.
And the police are also going to be figuring out basically enforcement. It'll probably be tiered as time progresses. They're not going to start handing out tickets immediately. Does that help?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. And my second question, which is completely unrelated, but you might be able to help me on it, relates to the pilot in respect to the 57 project. And it's complicated stuff, and I by no means am an expert, but I'm beginning to understand it. Now, my question is, I know on the website and publicly, various council members have stated that the pilot will be helpful for either capital improvements and or reducing property taxes. And I'm just wondering, given the situation that's currently under discussion through the planning board, regarding the impact of increased school children, depending on whether people subscribe to the Rutgers report, whether they subscribe to the, what I think is more relevant, Hopewell Valley pilot report that shows 2.5 times more the students than the current redeveloper is considering, like 21 students instead of 57, I believe. I'm just wondering if the borough would consider entering into some kind of, an agreement or commitment to taking some of that funds and allocating it, for school district for the shortfall and other things that I haven't even thought about yet.
So before we get into answering, I'm gonna just make a double check with our attorney. I believe that since I think your question in the discussion is about how money should be spent rather than this specific pilot that I was not able to be, that I recused myself from.
Yeah.
Just want to double check with attorney before, I don't want to answer improperly and or versus stepping in.
Understood.
So if it's okay, we're talking about
Yeah,
spending money.
if we confine it to the money being spent and not go into anything that may come up in any way at the planning board, I think we're okay. But it's a very narrow issue you have to talk.
Yeah, I'm prepared to be narrow. The narrow point is, what can the borough do? What will the borough do? And can you discuss and maybe get into, over the next period of time, how, some of that new money can be spent in ways that can help mitigate?
Yep, thank you, Art, okay, thank you. I'll start and I'll hand it over. I mean, the borough has been engaging with the school district, for a long period of time in anticipation of the use of pilots. I think I speak for the whole board, but everyone speak for themselves, that our commitment is to make sure that if it's a tool to allow us to get the school district, I'm gonna use the terms, more money than they otherwise should. But if our goal is to make sure our schools are funded, this is a tool that might allow it. And the commitment, I believe, from council, in my personal opinion, is that we should explore that and have been with the school district. A couple other pieces there. A couple of months ago, and maybe we can flag which date it was, but we had our financial advisors here, and this is not on the spending side of things, but there's a presentation that we did that might be like a little helpful kind of side piece, I suppose, about the financial impact, not on spending so much, but how it impacts the pie slice that the borough is responsible for, which I think is a helpful piece in the discussion. I think it's a great segue to talk about, we're gonna start next week, a listening exercise and information gathering, the 13th, here, at 6. The idea is for us to, start a very, long and open process to figure out what we should be prioritizing as a community, whether it's, with pilot revenues or surpluses or, avoided debt payments. Certainly, assisting the school district in what I think most of us agree is our, obligation to make sure that they have the resources that our kids need is certainly, in my mind, one of them. And I think the more people who say that, the more likely it is that that's what our
And
community
to be
chooses.
clear, if I can interrupt,
Yeah.
just for clarification, it's not necessarily, assistance is one thing, but I'm literally addressing, again, not wanting to violate the narrow bandwidth, but the potential, I'll say, to be safe, the potential shortfall, for, increased students.
So, I think the answer to that is yes. And the way that a pilot would allow us to do that is, I think it's a word that I think is tossed around a lot, and I don't mean it necessarily that way, but ultimately, the school district has a formula for spending. It is agnostic, or it has what we do in town really has no bearing on it. They have a budget. They're allowed to increase it by a certain percent with waivers every year, regardless of what we do. Pilots are a tool that would allow us to commit to pay more than that and to share more than they're allowed to otherwise take. And I think that amongst other things that council is interested in, myself included, is to explore that, to allow us to use it as a tool to have them be able to have more resources than they otherwise would have. And I think there's a lot of not positive things about pilots in general. That's one of the positives. So that it does.
That's great, thank you. Very helpful, thank you.
And with apology, I didn't mean to monopolize the discussion. I didn't mean to, anyone else want to add to that, please?
Yeah.
Great, thanks so much, yeah.
So much.
Hello. So I have a request. We had that water.
We have her name on the record.
Sorry, Lynn Ferrugia. Borough resident.
That's it, thank you, yeah, that's good.
So this week when we had that water testing done, we had lots of problems at the restaurant because, well, I called first Dave to say, do you have any idea what time it's gonna happen, or do you want anything? He goes, he thought it was canceled for that first day and then it's gonna be scheduled for the next day. There was like confusion about when the testing was gonna happen, from what he said. And then we tried to figure out, the timing of it, because we never know, like if the water pressure drops in a restaurant, we have lots of problems with like the espresso maker, the dishwasher, the RO system for the water, all that stuff. And it kept going up and down, and so we had lots of problems with the espresso machine, which is one of, our biggest revenue source in the day. So my request, and I talked to the American Water people, and I said, is there any way we can plan on lowering the water pressure between 3 and 5, when most of the restaurants in town, so I called on tomorrow, I called around, when service is really the lowest for most of the small businesses in this town, that use water like that. And the guy from American Water said, yes, but we just need to figure out communication, how do we talk to the town about, how we're gonna do it, when we're gonna do it. He said he was gonna talk to his supervisor. I didn't know, who I should talk to, because I knew that the sale was gonna happen. Well, I didn't know where we were in the sale, so if I come here or I talk to American Water about when they're gonna do the.
So, with apologies, I'm sorry that Dave didn't mean that, there was a specific time and, I think we communicated out on that, there was a confusion there on some of our staff people's mind, I apologize, that should have been information that we all had and could have
Because if
discussed.
Yeah, and he said, if we do the checking the flow again, he said he could ask his supervisor to do it between 3 and 5 or something, like, there are times that they
Sure.
can do it. Because that would make a huge difference to those of us who are using machines that take water and that, we're trying to serve the public.
So as far as I know, that was a one-time thing that is done, so apologies for the.
No, he said to me today, the guy from American Water said to me today that they'll probably be doing another flushing or something, I don't know, a flow check.
So
something.
if you don't mind, because we had an extensive call with them and I want to make sure I get to the bottom of this. Do you not put this spot, if you know who we talked to, message me and I want to close that loop, because
Okay,
that's not our understanding, and if it is, we'll make sure we understand it and circle back.
yeah, so, and I am happy if we want to do a phone tree or something, if you think something's gonna happen with the water, I'm happy to call the other restaurant people, like we can, my concern is always like, how do we communicate best? With the council, with business owners, well, especially with restaurants, that's all I know.
Yeah.
But,
Did you, I hope did you at least know that this one was coming from emails and things like that?
yeah, so I got the email that said it was happening.
Yes.
And Dave said he thought it was canceled for that day.
Well,
And
we'll
then-
fix that, I apologize about that,
Yeah,
I don't
so that's
know,
why.
I'm sorry, I don't,
That's
I
right.
can't. Yeah, we'll look into that, I don't know what to say about that other.
That's
than-
right, that's right. I mean, I just thought, yeah.
No, it's a good assumption to think.
But then I should know that it means that we shouldn't use our equipment if it's gonna happen. Like, if you don't know when it's gonna happen in the day, we should shut down the coffee machine, because when the water pressure goes down, then the steam thing, it's just a handbrake machine. Yeah, it's a complicated, I don't mean to bore you with this.
Yeah,
But so it would help us, like if you say from 8 in the morning until 5 at night, this is gonna happen. We don't know when it's gonna happen. Even that's good information. If we don't know when it's gonna happen, because then we'll just shut down the machine and shut down the RO, like the reverse osmosis machine, just so we know. And then we'll operate.
Well, again, apologies, I'm not sure why he thought it was,
I
but
don't-
we'll figure that out, and,
Okay.
yeah, thank you, and again, as far as I know, we can connect, just I want to make sure
Yeah,
uh,
I'll text you the guys.
yeah, yep, I mean, it look, maybe possible in the future, summer or fall, that they might have to plan things like that, they might have a better system of getting information up than we do at the moment, to be honest with you, but, look, as far as I know, and this is as of 11 o'clock today, this was a one-time thing as far as we're
Oh,
understand.
okay.
But again, I want to make sure it's a big place and let's get to the bottom of it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that making sure that Chubby's has coffee is a priority.
Yeah.
Good evening, Keith Alley, Hopewell Borough. as far as proclamations go, we are in the middle of Nurses Week, so just to make sure they're recognized as well.
Yeah.
As a former nurse, I do have a couple questions. I've been attending the planning board meetings regarding Hopewell 57, and there are some questions that they sort of redirected us back to council on. So I just wanted, rather than submitting requests under Oprah, I thought I'd just come and just ask them direct questions or follow-ups.
So I will do two things. One, to the extent this is something that council can talk about, it's something that I can't. So I'll note for everyone who may not be familiar, where I work, one of my colleagues does work for the applicant, unrelated for this project. And that's not for it to be a conflict for me or appear so. So I have not participated in the Hopewell 57 project. If that will be the discussion, I'm gonna step off and
So just before you go there, just a couple questions on the conflict. I just wanted
sure. No, that'd be delightful.
Do you know when the developer retained Stevens and Lee?
No, I don't.
Do you know which attorney the developer is utilizing at Stevens and Lee?
I would assume maybe that's public record, public.
I suppose, I believe Kevin Moore is an attorney that they use.
And the other question is, did you recuse yourself before or after notifying the borough attorney? In other words, when you became aware of the conflict?
I have no idea.
Okay. Okay, that's it.
Okay.
For the conflict, I have other questions.
There's other questions, one that I can participate in?
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything there. Like, I'm not asking for a decision from the council, just informational.
Well, maybe why don't you ask and then, I'm
Ask the question.
confused, but please, yeah.
So as to the planning board, currently, the planning board is structured so that there are two individuals from council that sit on the planning board. Currently, they're the mayor and Paul Buda.
So we have a combined land use board. There is a class 1 member that is Paul Buda, or two, that's myself. There is a class 2 member, which has to be a staff person, or in our case, it can be someone from Historic Preservation Commission. And there's a class 3 member, which is a council member.
Okay. So currently, there are two elected individuals, the class 1 and the class 3, that sit on the combined board.
Yes.
Both of them are recused. Has there been any discussion about having individuals who were elected to substitute for them during those hearings?
There's no provision under the municipal land use law for substitution. Once it's a act of council to appoint or by statute who is on, such as the mayor. And there's really no mechanism that I'm aware of, and I've researched this because it's come up. There's no real mechanism under the municipal land use law or under Title 40 to replace someone because of a possible conflict. So no, the short answer is I'm unaware of any legal way to do that.
I guess, let me ask it a little bit differently. Is there a prohibition that you're aware of? In other words, are they legally barred, is the question.
There is no mechanism in the law to allow it.
Okay.
There has to be a specific statutory authority to allow council to place a substitute in for such a position. And there's nothing in the municipal land use law, there's no case law that I could find that would allow that.
Okay, so the initial question I asked was there a discussion
Discussion of what?
of whether there should be?
There's no, I'm unaware of any discussion, but it would be legally an impermissible act, so there's no ability to do it.
Well, no, that's, again.
I
Right.
welcome the.
Right, no. The question I was asking is
I believe it's been discussed because we asked legal research to be done on it.
Okay, so there was a discussion.
There was an ask.
There was
I mean, that has been discussed.
there was a request, I don't even remember who requested it. That
I
was,
wrote the question.
yeah, and, you know, I researched it and, it was a pretty quick, decision that there is no mechanism. The council here cannot change the law. And the law is enacted by the legislature. There's no legislative act that permits that in the state of New Jersey. Not just for Hopewell, anywhere in the state of New Jersey. So that's where we are. You can't do it on, I'm sorry, you can't do it on an individual basis. I mean, I think I understand your question. You can't do it on an individual basis. And like, for example, Mr. Boot, I mean, you can't just say, well, you know, we'll pick Sherry or something, you know, I'm sorry to use your first name. But that, it's just not permissible. It would take an act of the legislature to enable such a change, in the,
And it couldn't be done on a time period basis or on a project by project basis or.
no, there's no provision like that.
And planning board takes a certain amount of training as well, correct? There's more.
Well, sure, but even if the training were there, I mean, there's no legal authority to do that. And they cannot, they meaning council, mayor and council cannot take it on their own to do that without the authority of a legislative act.
Correct. Parking. What was the reasoning behind not requiring guest parking, in the ordinance of 887? The 1.5 per unit?
Okay, that's getting into,
So
that's getting into stuff that I think.
Yeah, I think we're getting into an area, dealing specifically with, the planning board, hearings, which.
well, I mean, I'll put it differently. I think he's asking council members who might vote on that, what their reasons were. I mean, if you're comfortable going through that, you can. I mean, I don't know, that's it's up to them if they want to answer something like that, if they can, but.
As long as you're on a thin line here with regard to the actual application. I mean, I wasn't here when that was passed, so I don't know what.
It sounds like he's asking,
Yeah.
there was a legislative decision made at some point on an ordinance, and I guess he's asking for members who are here to think back about what they looked at.
Prior
what their-
to the filing of the application?
It would have been,
Yes.
absolutely.
Well, if it was prior to filing the application, then I think you can probably comment as long as you don't somehow relate it to the application.
I'll just note, maybe, you know, if you remember or want to talk about what your thinking was, I suppose that's.
I'm happy to comment on that. I would be very honest, I was very new at that point and, had I fully understood, but, you know, I regret my vote on that particular issue.
Oh, I have a different comment.
No.
I was also exactly as new as council member is. And as a council person, we rely heavily on the experts that we employ as a borough. Namely
I felt the same.
our planner, who cited extensive research done by Rutgers that looks good. And we asked this question,
Yeah.
why isn't it 2 parking spots per unit? Because everyone I know, every family I know has at least 2 cars. And the answer to me, I remember this because it was surprising that this Rutgers study showed empirically by looking back at approved developments that 2 parking spots per unit was excessive time and time again, so that they had come up with the 1.5 unit. I mean, you know, in life in general, I think we rely on experts who are experts in their field to teach us, and especially as a new council person. So that's how I made my decision based on who I think had the most information at the time.
Me as well, and also we ended up with 209 spaces instead of the 185, I think, so we did end up with some extra spaces, according to Joanna the other day, our planner. So,
Is the report you're referring to, the September 2023 report, how much is enough parking usage in New Jersey rental units? Does that sound familiar?
it's something that Joanna will share, I don't remember the exact document name, but
Did you guys read the report?
the report that she gave us at the time.
Yeah, the September twenty twenty-three
Yeah.
I
report.
don't remember.
Yeah, it was a couple of years
Yeah.
ago, but yes, we did read that.
Okay. Can everyone confirm that they did read it, or they don't
Yeah.
recall reading it, or?
I
I,
remember reading it, it was fairly, long, but I do remember reading it and like Sherry, I was taking the expert, it is solid expert testimony, but it doesn't mean that I can't, upon further reflection, see that it was not something that I would.
my question is simply, there was a report from Rutgers, I'm naming a report that identified
Yeah.
parking that I was able to find. Is there any other reports, or was it the report and the recommendation of
Yeah.
the?
Plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
And which professional was that? Was that Joanne?
Joanne, our plan, right?
Okay,
That's her role.
okay. Did she cite anything other than the Rutgers report that you wrote?
So,
I'm just-
I know where you're going with this, Keith, and in the interest of everyone's time, maybe if you've had a good amount of time here, I feel like the council's being deposed in anticipation of your lawsuit. I understand why you'd like to kind of ask them what their decision was years ago, what they looked at, and I can understand how that everyone would like to give that information. I'm asking our attorney for some guidance here, both in the interest of time and also this was years ago,
Right.
as part of a legislative decision where they, I'm sure had lots of input, public hearings and a project. And I'm just,
Yeah,
I'm seeing a big agenda ahead of us and a lot of time being taken on looking back a couple years on a project and maybe suggest that, if council members are interested in answering these kind of questions in detail, that we set up a way to do it offline.
Yeah,
yeah, I would agree. I think it is a legislative act, with your vote. And as such, it was in essence asked and answered, to the best of your recollections, something that happened quite a while ago. And, I think you've given, what I think were bona fide reasons, and this is not the Inquisition. I mean, I understand your concern, but this may not be the forum that would be appropriate to proceed in. So and there is an interest of time. I mean, you're given 5 minutes, and I think we're way beyond
Yeah.
that, so.
So I'll point out a couple things on that. First of all, because we've confirmed that Mr. Buda and Mayor Kennedy are not at the meetings for the planning board regarding Hopewell 57 due to conflicts. And no other substitutes are at the planning board meetings for Hopewell 57. And none of the professionals who sit here are at the meeting for Hopewell 57 planning board meetings regarding the site plan application.
that's
No,
not true.
Hold on,
No, they are
That's the
not.
question.
No one here I've seen at the last 4 meetings. So to that extent, I'm asking the question that the planning board has been unable to answer, and that this council back in October and November told us would be answered by the planning board. So now the planning board is unable to answer them. I've come back here to ask just some follow-up questions to get an understanding as to the decision-making process. So what I'm hearing is it's somewhere else, take it offline. I'm just asking a couple simple questions as to the decision, because what we were originally told was to go to the planning board. And then there's nobody there that's elected that's on there. And then they're telling us that they can't answer that, we have to come back here, and then we come back here, and now we're being told to take it offline. So I just have a couple follow-up questions regarding documents, so I don't burden the township administrator regarding the developer and whether or not there was an RFP. My understanding, there was no RFP issued for the Hopewell 57 project. Is that accurate?
I don't think we should be going in. These seems to be more detailed questions involving the application that I don't think is appropriate or legal for council to get involved in. You're correct. I wasn't at any of the meetings. There's no reason for me to be at any of the meetings. But in terms of the the planning board, and I'm taking you at your word as to what they said, to come back here. Truthfully, I think that's inappropriate and, not really a viable way to gain that information. So I would greatly ask to restrict any answers with regard to RFPs or anything involving
Well,
the,
let me ask it this way. So who here, and I decided to include our professionals and staff, was involved in this at all? So we had council members on this side and
But in the,
Involved in
the.
in what?
in the ordinance that I think he's asking about.
Yeah, we were all
I
involved.
think, yeah.
But minus Paul, minus myself,
Oh, yeah.
Anthony, were you here for that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
None of our professionals were. So I'm, right, we had a different town attorney, a different administrator at the time of this. Our CFO was not involved, our deputy clerk was not involved. I'm suggesting that you're asking for information that the people here desperately would like to help you find, but that the answers that you seek are not at this table at this moment, and they're really struggling to, in the spirit of wanting to help a resident with factual questions. But what I'm hearing is that the sources of these questions are not at this table. I mean, in fact, what you just said.
Then my only last follow-up question is,
Thank you.
where do I go for that information? Where do I go to find out whether an RFP was issued? If not, why not? How was the current developer notified of the project? And what was done to solicit alternative proposals? I mean, those are all questions that a citizen that lives in this borough should be able to get answers to. So what I mean.
Now that you've asked them, I think we can assemble, and I'll invite you, if there's others, either you can share them to Jerry electronically or now, and some combination of professionals and people with board will be able to figure out how to point you to the right direction. I'm getting increasingly uncomfortable because these are things that I can't participate in at all. It makes it very difficult to run a meeting.
I would suggest that you file an Oprah request. Specifically, A, B, C, D, E, whatever you wanna.
But a why not question is in response to an over, I'm not gonna get a response to a why not on an over request.
But you're asking for certain documentation, whatever. I think that would be your first step, is to file an Oprah.
Some of it is legal research, I guess,
Yeah.
how some of these things work. And I feel like that the interest of the town has always been to try to help residents with that. I'm hearing and feeling that at this moment, we're not gonna be able to get you those answers. If what you're looking for is some kind of statement that doesn't exist or we can't help. I mean, that's not gonna happen at this moment, but it would, I think the people who can participate want to see you get information with this.
I'm
And
happy to work on it. I can work with Doug or Jerry. I mean, we can.
I assume there was some process. I mean, it's a challenge for me. Hold on. Because this is what I do for a living, so I know exactly how these things work, and it's challenging for me not to step in and say X works this way, and this is how, not a condemnation area, that Y would happen. I shouldn't be doing. So what I will suggest is that we'll task our team with connecting with you to have some kind of dialogue. I'll yield to our attorney. I don't think we need to make you do an Oprah request, and I do think some of the questions that you're asking, to your point, would be legitimate denials of an Oprah request. To be honest with you, it's either research or whatever task. But I'm hearing a desire to get you this information, and to work on that. So is that what I'm hearing from councils?
Yeah.
And from council with the different spelling?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks.
So this is about Hopewell 57,
Name, please.
Park Reed. This is a statement, there's no questions, but Ryan, you would say.
I appreciate that. Again, I'll look at our attorney. If there's gonna be a comment made, it's just listening. Is that, should I step off or?
If it's a
It doesn't
statement,
matter if Ryan's there or not.
it's a
Oh,
statement,
understood, so.
It's just a statement for your consideration. I would keep it under 5 minutes.
and there will be no response by any council.
Don't even,
Okay,
but
just so we're clear.
your question about 1.5 parking space. I've had 17 units for 22 years. And just my observation, okay? The people who rent my 2-bedroom apartments are renting and not owning homes because they can't afford homes. So I have found, in my experience, that those people cannot afford two cars. And I don't know anything about Rutgers reports or anything like that, but in my experience, having opinions one way or another about parking spaces at Hopewell 57, that's what I found to be true. All right, I would like to, this is a architectural, where can I just put this up just quickly? So everyone can see it? Is that possible?
Clark,
Yep.
I have 3 bedroom house and I got 3 cars, so I mean.
We shouldn't have this stage.
Sorry, I chimed in.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna make a statement.
I am making a statement. This is, so I grew up on Hamilton Avenue, as Paul knows. And, he lives across the street from me. And I want everybody to be able to see this. So I lived there I was a kid there for over 20 years. And this is what I observed as a child, live here, okay? So people come down railroad place, they accelerate around the turn, and they blow through because they don't have a stop sign. It's been a problem forever, as far as I know.
Clark, I'm gonna pause and not interrupt you, but I just wanna be clear that it sounds like what you're about to say is information that probably be valuable to the planning board, perhaps about
So
active
the planning board
application.
doesn't have, this has nothing to do with the property of Hopewell 57, zero.
All right.
Has nothing to do with anything on that property.
I believe you. I wanna say and make sure our staff says that though, to the extent that there's something that you're saying that would be valuable to change,
Yes,
you know, input that project, that it should be done at one of their meetings so they can hear. That's
Okay,
what I.
so again, this has nothing I'm gonna say has anything to do with the Hopewell 57 property, nothing.
Okay.
It all has to do with signage that you guys determine that is not on the property. Stop signs, things like that. This is for your consideration. I'm just telling you what I've experienced in 50 years of living in Hopewell Borough. And I think that this is beneficial just for your consideration. That's it. I'm not coming back. I'm not talking about it again, and I can be done in 4 minutes. Okay, so Hamilton Avenue obviously goes both ways, okay? People accelerate down the hill and they come around and there's no stop sign this way. Okay, so my idea, right, is obviously to add a stop sign on Sky's corner facing up the hill. But also add a stop sign right here. You know, people come out of the parking lot, they're turning right. There should be a stop sign, right? There's a telephone pole, there's a place for it, slows down traffic coming this way. Now, a lot of people were concerned at the last meeting, and rightfully so, that women with strollers trying to get to the playground at the train station are gonna have to walk in the street. That's a huge concern, absolutely, positive. Now, I talked to Sky Morehouse. He is willing to allow a sidewalk to be built for 30 feet up his side of the property. So if we build a sidewalk, and the developer said that he would do it, you put like a flasher like we have on Broad Street, or if you work out some sort of system with a clear crosswalk, and if you look at that corner of that building that's dictated right here, a sidewalk picks up right there on the other side. So you build it up this way, you put in a flasher, you slow people down even more, and then people with strollers or little children can cross the street and then pick up the sidewalk on the other side. I believe this is a great alleviation of legitimate concerns. Now, also, at the last meeting, there was a moment of, I don't know what it's called, revelation, where the developer didn't realize that the parking that is here is it not overnight parking or? 75, they're not allowed to be there. Okay, so I have a major problem with the traffic on this street, having grown up there. It's going to be a nightmare. School buses, garbage trucks, UPS, Amazon, absolute disaster. So I have talked to the developer again, and I have begged him to eliminate all of these parking spaces here. Also, I think he will consider eliminating on Lafayette Street. And this will allow the flow of traffic with garbage, like people moving and shaking and doing all the things that people do to be able to get the large vehicles that need to be in and around here. My last thing that I am very adamant about is that just like Seminary Avenue by my buildings, you guys 100 years ago made that one way. Now, Hamilton Avenue, in my opinion, having lived there, should be one way in from Broad Street. This eliminates so many problems for this development, okay? If you have cars coming out of this parking lot and they hit a stop sign here and they hit a stop sign there, that's all great, okay? If you have cars coming out to Broad Street on Hamilton Avenue, trying to make that left, you are gonna have cars backed up to Kingdom Come. It is going to be a nightmare, okay? You try to make that left, the light is red at Carter, the car is already backed up, they can't make a left, there's no pause, there's no way. I don't know what their traffic guy is thinking, but it's just a recipe for disaster. If you make Hamilton Avenue one way in only, you're gonna have, people will have a point of egress here, people will have a point of egress here to get back out to Broad Street, around PNC Bank. And I think that's pretty much it. I talked to a bunch of people, I listened, I've been at all the meetings. I'm just not having an opinion on this. I'm just talking about the traffic because I care and I grew up there.
Thank you.
That is what I
Thank
have.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Evening. For revenue. I thank you so much for acknowledging your vote and your comments tonight. I think it's incredibly professional. I thank you. In reference to, I'm trying to educate myself on this process here. So in reference to ordinance 887 and 891, who is the actual author of those ordinances? Who writes them?
Apologies, we have a new format of our agenda. Which ordinances, I mean, you've read from.
887 is the ordinance where you agreed to make a redevelopment zone, establish standards including density, setbacks, and parking for Hopewell 57, lot coverage, and also agreed to a 3-story structure. That was 887.
So that's the redevelopment, Art, if you wanna talk about how that process works briefly.
I just wanted to walk with it, that's all. Okay.
I'll let our attorney try to answer that. And I think the answer really is that these are ordinances are group efforts by many people in general, and he wasn't involved for this one, but maybe can more generally speak about
I
how that.
wasn't involved in this one. I wasn't here, but yeah, it is a group effort. It can be a collaboration of multiple people within the municipality in terms of the administrator, in terms of the planner, in terms of the engineer. Each one is.
So does everyone get around the typewriter and just type at one time?
No. They could request comments with regard to the specific issues. And then there's some collaboration between the parties. The lawyer, the municipal attorney may get involved. There's no, set formula that you can go, A, B, C, D, E, whatever. I mean, each one is different and each one may have different particulars. So, if it's a very simple ordinance, you may have just the administrator there. You may have the attorney prepared, but it's a collaboration of usually a multitude of people within the municipality, including the professionals who hopefully have a handle on what the request is.
So I didn't ask what the process is, I just asked who is involved in 81.
I don't know exactly.
So I'm requesting to find out who is actually wrote that and who is involved in the process. That's as simple as that. All right, when it comes to the developer, it sounds like in those 887 and 891, the developer and his team is also engaged in that process. Is that what I'm understanding?
I don't know.
Great.
I don't know. I
So
wasn't
then,
there. I had no knowledge of
so I'm
those.
requesting to find out if.
I'm trying to answer you.
Developer.
I'm trying to
You don't
answer you.
know. You just said you didn't know.
I'm trying to answer you.
But as I think, from observation and being at these meetings, our town has a redevelopment council.
Yeah.
It is not Mr. Seife.
Right.
Yeah.
I got it. He said he didn't know. So
Okay.
moving on. I said I'd like to bring a request in to find out who authored it. And I'd like to find out what the developer and his team was involved in writing it. That's all. And I'd also like to know what due diligence was done to ensure that those ordinances that were done had independent research, including stormwater, flooding, infrastructure, capacity, emergency access. Because it seems to be that there's a lot of concern still about that, yet they were approved. So I'd like to understand what the process is, when it's written, and how it's approved, and what due diligence was done before it was approved. Who would I go to talk about that?
So the questions you're asking, I know you're saying you'd like to understand.
I did.
They involve many elements. One is the kind of education on the legal process of these documents, a research project about who was involved at the time. And so my suggestion is, if you're reading them, if you want to email our administrator, we can try to figure out. I don't know if it's going to be a satisfactory answer, to be honest with you, because I think but my suggestion is that we get that, and we'll do our best to try to answer, because I think some of it is, again, to Mr. Hovey's point, we don't want to make you say, well, put it in a public records request, because some of the things you're asking for are documents, and it's not going to be fair to you, or, and I, as we, Mr. Hovey, I think the desire is to try to get this information for you. It might take some research, some work, pulling some people together, and that's what I'm hearing, and what I'll instruct our people to attempt to do.
So just one of those type of question. In regards to the water sale, if the water sale hadn't gone through, would Hopewell 57 been able to be built as it is, or was the sale of the water a part of the requirement?
So I've been a member of the water committee for a couple of years. Water capacity in any particular part of town has never been a factor in the sale evaluation for the sale, or anything that's ever come up in a meeting that I've been. So as an observer, I suppose, or a participant in the discussions and preparation for the water sale, concern about capacity in any particular part of town for any building or any development on the water side was never part of anything that I can recall ever being.
So the building could have been built without the sale of the water and have appropriate water pressure in water.
If someone involved in the Hopewell 57 wants to answer that, I have no.
Completely separate issues.
It has existing water service, and it
Right.
has since it was built.
It was
It 200 people work there.
Right.
They didn't live there, but thank you very much. That's got my answer. Thanks.
You don't want to answer.
No.
Hi, Susan, Florida resident, nothing about the 57 or so, yeah, no
I
problem.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate this, at least that, I'm sorry.
Acknowledgement, yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes it, yeah.
And first I just want to say, like, how, when Keith was asking some questions and you were saying, well, that's something for the planning board, not here. Like, that's just what many of us have been hearing through this whole process. We come here, we ask questions, and we're told, oh, that's for the planning board. We go to the planning board and they say, oh, that's not for us, that's for the council. So there's just a lot of, continual confusion, frustration on trying to just really find out information and who we can advocate to for for changes, for getting questions answered, all of that. So that's where I think some of the frustration is coming, that there's conflicting information from the council and the planning board. And Ryan, I think you started to answer my question that I came with. You have mentioned numerous times over the past 2 months, every time you talk about the sale of the water and mortgage, you say, oh, and then we're gonna have these community meetings when the sale goes through. And so I was just wanted to know how you're envisioning that, because as we all know, it's pretty hard to get people to come to public meetings, and the borough has a hard time communicating, getting the word out there. You guys, you know, we all know, also don't want to ruin your big announcement, Jerry, but I know there's things coming with the website that should be easier to understand and find information. But it is, you know, in the 20 plus years I've been here, it's been an ongoing issue. And so making sure that there's multiple channels to communicate and multiple ways for people to give their ideas. Pennington did an amazing little survey that they emailed out and they had on social media for their master plan. And I just don't know if that's something that you would consider doing. It was very visual, it was very quick and easy to understand. Because my fear is that you're gonna have these meetings, it'll be the same group here, you know, sharing our opinions, but there's 1,900 people in this town. And I just would hate for it to turn into like a weird Shark Tank kind of situation where people are trying to pitch in their ideas, you know. So the school district did a wonderful job when they were doing strategic planning. Last time they had facilitators who were impartial. It was, you know, there were lots of different opportunities, and this is a big deal for our community and a lot of strong opinions, I would imagine. Then that's a request to make it more than just a public meeting that, you know, on the 13th, that's a week away, that I haven't, wasn't that what you said on the 13th?
Yep. So this is going to be a series of months of different types of outreach. We're going to set up like an email address for, to your point, some people like settings like this and saying things in public. A lot of people don't. To start, the way I've described, like the first meeting will be a little bit like the DPW tours, very informal, be a few minutes of just kind of background, but then just opportunity for people to, you know, everything from putting Post-its up on a board to making comments. But it is intended to be free flowing. And by that, I mean, we're going to have a series of different times, locations over a series of months. And any thought that you have about different ways of collecting information from people, and I heard a lot of good ones just even here tonight, get them to us, because it's not, we're having a meeting. We're just going to start having different ways of collecting this information.
Right, and because it's just like, probably because I'm so deep in the weeds in, you know, some of the other things that we're going to talk about right now. But it's shocking to me when people are like, what? That's happening? Like, I don't know how people aren't being informed. It's very challenging. So I'm happy to hear that the ball is rolling.
Oh, yeah.
And you're being very strategic about it.
And again, the biggest piece of strategy is the wide net and
right.
I'll encourage people to come next Thursday by all means, or Wednesday, excuse me. By all means, if you have anything better to do, there will be probably dozens of other opportunities in similar or different settings over a series of months. Is the plan. And also non-person to person or more private, smaller settings as well.
Super. That's great to hear. And that's great to hear that you're, you know, thinking about it before. I had a question about the 250th anniversary, which is exciting that you're doing that. And I saw the announcement today that it's in conjunction with the Block Party Committee. I'm wondering if there will be any proceeds from that, where they will go and where they will be like directed to.
We're not sure there will be proceeds. Go ahead, Leonard.
I was just gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, we basically have just raised money to pay for the event, and we're probably gonna break even, because basically we're offering a town-wide celebration where we'll be feeding people for $2.50, a full meal, beverages and reenactors and lots of, fun history events.
Sure, and a beer garden that you're
And a beer
charging 20-something for. So if by any chance there happens to be money left over, where will that go?
Credit it back to the borough, sound like a good idea?
Yeah, it'll go back to the town. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that because I think in some other fundraising things, there's been confusion.
Yeah, I think
about
the,
where money's gone.
The borough's role in this is rather limited. There's gonna be, I think, a few specific things that the town might pay vendors for. But it sounds like, if, you know,
Yeah,
if there's
makes
anything,
sense,
left over, perhaps we can just, you
Pay
know,
it back.
credit back or reduce the PO for the last day, just so it breaks even and the town's not,
Right,
you know,
on the hook for.
paying for something where there was money left over.
Yeah, but the town is budgeting money for it, right? Isn't that
Spend
right?
money to die, I guess. But yeah, yes, they,
Yeah, town is budgeting, so it's,
The block party is a private entity, so
Yeah.
what you do with the proceeds for the actual block party is.
I'm not
impacting
asking
that.
about that.
Yeah, in this case, it's gonna be a joint effort and money will go back to the town.
Okay, great, because there is no money in the budget for the rec committee for this event, right?
Yes. there
Yeah.
is.
Okay,
Yeah,
so the borough's funding it and the sale of tickets.
and the businesses that have supported us, correct.
Great, okay, so that's perfect. And then my last question is. There's confusion about the pedestrian committee and if it still exists, who, if it does exist, who should be calling those meetings? And why did it stop existing? Because I don't think that's officially met. I know Chris is really involved on the county level, but it doesn't seem that the actual, like, has that been disbanded? What's the?
No, it hasn't been disbanded. You know, the committee was incredibly productive for the first couple of years it was here, and we were very lucky to have those people who put together the county roads report. However, people decided to not be reappointed, and I think, for instance, Brad Evans, who drafted the first part of the county roads report, was on sabbatical when he did that. So when he had to return to work, he just didn't have as much time to invest in that. I think there might have also been some confusion about connecting PBSAC to the Safe Routes to School grant. Yeah, I just want to clarify that, so when it came time to write that grant, like normally an advisory committee would not be drafting a grant like that, that would be the administrator. But at that time, we did not have an administrator. So I did go to the authors of the PBSAC report and say, hey, would you guys like to start the process of writing this grant? But again, they had already invested a lot of time, they had other things going on in their lives, but they were not actually available to participate in that. So I started doing it on my own. And then when we had our interim administrator, Nancy Jaminow, who was actually a licensed engineer who had done the report or had done the grant before, she helped guide me on best practices as far as like offering it, submitting it. Now that the grant has been awarded, it is no longer in my hands. It is in Jerry's hands. The person who has to be in charge of the grant and makes the decisions and takes the lead on it is called the responsible charge. And that must be a full-time employee of the borough. They have to go to special training classes. So the grant is now being managed by Jerry.
Okay, so Jerry's managing the grant.
Yeah.
But for those of us on Facebook and those of us who live here all the time, we see that like all of the signs are always crashed down for the pedestrian walkway signs. And I know that there are still families who are talking about, you know, traffic issues and safety issues.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm just wondering, because it sounded like the committee still existed, but just hadn't met, but what you're saying, like, so, right.
At the, so at the moment, it exists, but doesn't have enough members to meet due to
Yeah.
resignation.
Okay, so would you put an offer out to recruit new members? Is that possible?
That offer's been out there, yeah.
No,
Hold on.
it hasn't always been out there. It hasn't been clear. It hasn't been clearly communicated in all the meetings where we've asked about it. That has not.
But
I'm pretty sure it's
hold on. I don't think I've been asked this before.
Right.
But I like, if the people are interested in volunteering in any capacity in this borough, please let me know. We will talk about what those opportunities are. I personally think that I would like to see a committee, you know, some additional, you know, to your point, there's a challenge now because so many things are happening at the, with the, I'll say the professionals, the engineers that the state has assigned us to do the work of safe routes to school. But the original charge was a valid one. It might need to change a bit, but if there are more volunteers interested in working on this or other issues, I'm always willing to figure out a way to use that talent. So
Yeah, that's great. I hadn't found a place on the website where it is saying like opportunities to volunteer are these, but I can.
it's a tough website to navigate.
Right, it's tough
So,
website,
you know,
so maybe in the new improved website, it can really be very clear, here are these opportunities, because there are a lot of people who want to get involved. And we all keep seeing over and over what happens when only a few people are really aware of the information. So thank you. Thank you for being open.
Real quick, we promise mine will be under 60 seconds.
And that tuned in 3 notes.
45 on North Greenwood Avenue.
I'm sorry, I just different.
Philip.
Okay.
Elizabethtown gas line project is complete.
Yes.
Are they responsible to repave the roads?
Yes. Thank you. Wait, what? We'll be doing an announcement, but in the coming weeks, they're actually gonna be starting that project. So there is a, like the paving ferry is kind of coming towards the borough. There's gonna be a lot this summer between the roads that Elizabethtown will finish, some county projects, and the borough will be seeing a lot in the coming months. I'll just note so I don't forget, the Hopewell Princeton Road / Carter / Princeton, near the bridge that was just finished. Yeah, that is gonna, there's a paving project next week starting there. We've got that information hopefully out, and apologies, there is a detour on that one. But I believe the 18th is a start date for the Elizabethtown project, so we'll get that information out as well, particularly to the directly affected residents. And then there's a series of other borough projects that'll be this summer that we'll start getting information.
Perfect, thank you very much.
And Lynn saying last,
Yeah. We get,
Yes, you
after
can.
last summer's traffic problems, we just get some notice about when the road is gonna be done.
Yes, you absolutely will.
I'm also happy to volunteer to be on a committee, I don't care what you call it, committee, about how we can communicate to people about when these projects are gonna happen, because
I'll get you on I will get you on the Elizabethtown beat up committee, so we can get.
Call me and I'll be happy to be on that committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a general comment to it. I think it was particularly to James and to Susan. I think you know from prior meetings that I've given myself the charge to rewrite ordinances. And what's interesting for me as being an architect, I used to be like, why is that ordinance that way? You know, how do I explain this to my clients? And there have been ones that we've inherited, and I've been through all this before. And then about the way to fix this or do this, and part of the understanding this in front of the council as well, that, you know, maybe there could be some meetings about this where we talk about why ordinances are a certain way they are, kind of almost a one-to-one. Also, this idea of what planning board does, since I've been on both in the past and now currently again, who does what. But you know, I just think of having my son years ago with Schoolhouse Rock, trying to explain the Congress and the Senate and the president. That's not the president's job, and government's complicated. And yes, council makes ordinances. And to answer even the question, generally speaking, is that it is a lot of people that come. You know, some things are given, but you know, it's like almost like getting married. There are 1,000 things to consider, right, for that big day. Well, ordinances are that way, and the experts tell you certain things. Because you had to do every point, you'd never get anything done. Right? You have to take certain things. Now there's common sense that comes in, and maybe that's what Heidi's talking about. Like, gosh, maybe I should have second guessed this. But you know, experts are there for a reason. They really study things, and sometimes you think the opposite. Like as Clark said, his experience is 1.5 is the right number, even though it sounds funny to people. Like, how could you have half a car? Well, it's because certain people don't have cars, and look how expensive things are today. And you know. But there's a lot of complications with it, but I just want to say that I'm open to this idea of trying to make it more community-based. Having said that, it can't be, there's a balance, right? Because like when we vote, like for our congressperson, we vote for that person because of their ideals. We don't vote because they're gonna call me on Wednesday. Like Rush Holt didn't call me on Wednesday to tell me how he's gonna vote on a certain ordinance. I just explore, or a certain law. I just have to, you can't vote on every line item as a citizen. You have to kind of general ideas, and we have to kind of get to the important things. Yeah, traffic, yes, parking, yes, how things fit in. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Paul. And I'm gonna just add to that. Some of the things, with the benefit of hindsight, you learn about better ways to do it. And I think there's plenty of lessons in some of these projects for when similar things happen again, and better ways to do it. While hindsight is great, there's this additional challenge, and I'm looking at our attorney, that when you realize perhaps that things could be done differently, or there are other approaches, or that type of outreach or education about how processes are, there are limits to doing that in real time, particularly when there's something during the planning board, and then we get, I'll just say, stuck in a position where we want to be helpful. We want to have a better explanations, but there are times when we have to keep our mouths shut because there are certain very specific processes happening. In this moment, maybe one of them, but I think they're well taken, and hopefully, with apologies to those on Zoom, I think our camera is rebooting itself. So if perhaps, Christine, would you mind cycling the power? There's a power strip like that this is plugged into. We'll eventually very quickly fix that. So that's plugged into yep, like the old fashioned, like a black and white tube TV and kicking it. So for those online, apologies. We'll be back in a second. And while I was vamping there, I will just get back to saying, much appreciated, all of this feedback. And, as we go to do things similar or not similar, we've learned from it. And particularly the type of process understanding that we'd like to be better at or communicate better on. And while we can't do it in the past, we can think about it and be guided going forward. Christine, I think it's good. It just takes a minute to. That weird hoot means that it's booting back up.
Good job.
Thank you. I'm an IT guy.
So with apologies to those online, we should be back. If anyone online, there was a hand before, but person texted me and on to other things. If anyone online would like to make a comment, now's the time to push that raise hand button so we can bring you over. Not seeing it, I will take a motion to close the first of many public comment opportunities for this evening. Please, all right, come on up. That's all right.
Thank you. I violate parliamentary procedure.
No, just come up to the front and say your name and please make your comment.
Cool. Okay, so I'm Susan Crossley, live on Railroad Place. And this is the first time I've attended a council meeting. I've attended a lot of the planning department meetings lately. So I confess that I don't know to what extent this has been discussed, but there's this horrible rumor going around town that the building, the facility for the borough boys, as we call them, Dave Silvestri and Alan and those guys who help out around the town publicly. There's this rumor going around that $3 million is being marked for the rebuilding of their facility on a piece of land we already own. They need a bathroom, they need a bigger, better garage, and I'm horrified. Is this true? And so what stage is it in? And yeah.
Well, I'll put up here on the screen. We've got a website. We hosted a bunch of tours of the DPW building. I'm happy to repeat that so you could see what, you name some of the people that work there and some people maybe don't, but happy to show you what the need is. take a look. We've been at this for a long time, and I'm happy to bring you up to speed on it. I know a lot of people in here in the room have been at these meetings and seen it. But we've got all of the, one second, all of the information about what's been allocated towards it, how much it'll cost and where it's at. We do have cataloged, and the exact number, I don't actually know.
It said 3.2 to 2.7 million, it's the estimated cost of the project, and I just think that's nuts. I think that's totally nuts, and what alarms me about that is that, we have a once in a lifetime opportunity, having sold our water system, to consider something like, maybe we should use that money to buy this property ourselves at Hopewell 57 and redevelop it ourselves. And then we can max out the number of affordable housing units, right? Because if we're gonna put all these units in there, let's max out the number. I know they don't green in Hopewell. I take the point. But we could max that out. Affordable housing is not that cheap. I really think these numbers, I've looked at the numbers as they stand, and it just, I don't think it'd be hard for the town for us to do it ourselves and break even, and we could have a community center that enhances the value of our property. Because what concerns me is the project as imagined can be expected to have a deleterious effect on property values. And the closer you are to the project, the worse it is. I'm only a block away. I'm among the most affected. Maybe by the time you get out to the edge of the borough, you get down to zero effect. But that means it's negative to neutral effect. And that is civic management 101. You don't make big decisions that do that to your tax base. Because then if we want to hold revenues flat, what do we have to do? Increase the percentage assessment, which is already at 3.3%, if I remember rightly. That's a lot. So then you get into a death spiral, right? Because if you don't maintain tax revenues, you can't maintain your schools, your police, your roads, your parks, your quality of life. So either the properties take another hit on value, or you raise the percentage assessment, which means they're less financially attractive for buyers, so their property value takes another hit. It's exactly the kind of thing that has happened in places like Trenton and Camden, where you have to have pilot projects in order to reverse the trend in property value. And so I just don't think we can do this. I think we have to do something that enhances property value, or at least is neutral. I mean, so I guess my question is, like, can't we spend the millions to buy it ourselves? I gather the developers have not yet closed on it.
Well, that's one of the things that perhaps community can consider as part of this visioning exercise. I know your question is initially about the DPW building.
Yeah, well, it's just that money. That's why
I guess
that money horrifies me, because I really think, I mean, I'm not a contractor. If you own the land already and they need a bathroom, maybe a break room with windows and a big garage, it's $300,000.
So I'm doing my best not to interrupt you. I'm trying to answer, and I'm not sure that's what you're looking for. The reality is that for government to build, and again, I invite you to come look at this and we can see the plans and see what needs to be built there. Things like what the community needs for even the most minimal DPW facility that is appropriate for anyone to work at costs what this costs. I wish it were less. I'm sorry that maybe at this moment we're not gonna be able to convince you that it's necessary or that it really does cost that. I welcome to, we can look at it together if you'd like. The materials that have been put together about why it costs this way.
I'd love to see those. Thank you.
Okay, and I also encourage you and everyone else, if purchasing properties, and this doesn't have to be next week, if that's something whether it's open space or for the town to do 100% affordable housing projects, it's something people should raise. I will say my own experience is that they are very challenging financially. But again, particularly since most of them are based on these things called low income tax credits, where our community unfortunately does not rank high in the ability for a developer to get them. But it's things that we can and should explore. We have other properties and opportunities in town, and that's what we're looking for. So, I appreciate it and, happy to have that discussion.
All right. Night night.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jean Schwen. Brian, I had a similar question I had asked at a previous council meeting, related to the DPW
Yeah.
plans.
Yes.
Is there an outline of what's essential and what's discretionary to comprise $3.5 million? And does it account for the fact that we no longer need a water department? I mean, if you're reducing the size of the DPW by not needing a water department and then you're expanding the building, it's just, it really defies logic.
Well, you have asked that many times, and I think we've answered it many times.
Have you though?
Yeah,
Discretionary
I think-
versus essential?
hold on. Well,
I've never
what-
seen
hold-
that written anywhere.
discretionary versus essential?
Well, to fix the bathroom, I think the previous.
Well, I would
resident just pointed out
implore
the
you.
fact that nothing costs $3.5 million to repair things.
I wish that were the case. I really do. The amount of time that's gone into this project, trying for that to be the reality, that it wouldn't cost a lot, or that somehow, the removal of a half person, who is actually gonna remain an employee would cause us to not need space. I would invite you and ask you to come take a look at this space.
If you eliminate a water department, how do you retain the headcount for the water department?
We have one person who's half allocated to the water system, who will be continuing on the borough in full capacity with the public works team. We're not changing headcounts at all. It'll be devoted to sewer and other tasks. Yes, what?
It seems odd. It seems odd that you would be reducing eliminating the water department, keeping the person. We're
Yeah.
employing a person who no longer has to manage the
If you have
water.
other comments, maybe that would be the time to make them. And we'll
So
take that.
is there an account somewhere of what's discretionary and what's essential within the $3.5 million that it was never, there's no justification as far as the taxpayers can see. It's just a choice that
I see.
very few
So-
people.
So when you say discretionary, you mean like a Christmas tree item or something that is not needed, but council has decided to pursue even though there's not a need for it versus
Well,
something that's needed? Is that?
Can you just tell me what was essential, what was necessary about that needed to be repaired in the water department? That's $3.5 million. That couldn't be solved in a more cost-effective way.
Can I ask just a quick
Please,
question?
yeah.
Have you been to the current
She has.
facility?
No, we've asked her.
You have not?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
implore you,
It's-
anyone who
Implore you
would
to
like
see
to
it.
ask.
I don't understand how you even
It's
asked
written
it.
somewhere, which.
Why
ask
can't
that-
you- why can't you-
Hold on, no.
Is it written?
Is it written? Everything that is being proposed is necessary
Yes.
for the operations of our public work team. I wish less things were necessary. I wish it were less expensive.
It's
It is not.
It's very bare bones,
Yeah.
what we're building.
I think it would help if you
Three and a
actually
half
laid
months.
eyes on it.
Yeah.
I think you
It's
really need to
terrific.
lay eyes
It
on it.
really
It
is.
really is.
It's,
I mean, I lived here for 30, I never even knew where it was or when I lived down the street. And then I went in and I said, oh my gosh, you people work like this?
And a lot of it's paid for already.
And I don't think that. And then alternatives were evaluated.
The alternatives of. So again, we explore shared services all the time. The 4 things of what a public works team needs to do are local in their eyes. I wish we had more things for them. There's not a thing beyond what they absolutely need at that place or what needs to be absolute local. I've engaged with other people with similar questions, why we and talk with them about this, why we could not operate our snowplows or things out of, say, local townships or Montgomery's. It just doesn't work.
Pennington Borough is 4 miles away. Did you contact Pennington Borough
We
about
talk to
this?
these towns all the time, but yes.
But did you contact Pennington Borough about their garage space that they have that's right off of 31?
I believe we have, yeah.
But.
In fact, they're-
If Pennington Borough was contacted, because they have a very large facility, and this is precisely what the residents would expect before $3 million is spent.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's say something like that happened. Would you be willing to have the snow removed to be delayed by 8 hours or 12 hours?
It's not about.
Or do you like the way it is now?
That's not what it's a choice between.
Well, I think it is.
Yes, it
Because
is.
I'm very impressed with our small department here and how fast we get the snow up.
Pennington Borough,
Understand.
DPW is 4 miles away.
Well,
That
yeah,
does not-
that's the snow. It's like 12 miles away. That's snow.
I'm sorry, that's silly.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Steve Wood, resident of Front Street, talking about the, I'm sorry, I just had surgery this morning, so I feel about this, that's why I'm here. I'm talking about the Public Works. The facility we have now is probably 60, 70 years old. The equipment that the borough has is stored outside, so if you talk about 3.5 million, 3.2 million, it's for a salt shed, so we have a supply of salt on site, so when we need it for snow, we don't have to wait for it to come in. The equipment's outside in all the weather, it's gonna wear down that equipment. You're talking about vehicles that cost tens of thousands of dollars, if not $100,000, that's sitting out in the weather that really should be inside covered when it's needed. Talking about a bathroom, we're talking about a facility, if you haven't seen it, it's small. If you go there, you'd be embarrassed in the facility that they have used now. So it's kind of upgraded to the 21st century. It's not gonna be a Taj Mahal, but it's something that the staff can use. Their break room is actually their office. They're around the same desk where they do their paperwork. So it's bringing something that's 67 years old to the 21st century in an area that needs it. And talking about Pennington, Pennington had a small public works before they built the new one off of Tree Farm Road, which cost a lot of money. You say it's only 4 miles away. Pennington would be required to take care of the Pennington property before they come to the borough. So we'd be waiting for them to come to us when they do their road. So it's just like we don't.
Within the facility, you can park the trucks in the garage, up there.
All right.
But that-
I gotta have one.
I'm just gonna ask that we'll take questions and comments and try to keep this orderly. So Steve,
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else with any question for the first of several public comment opportunities? Seeing none, I will.
I'll make a motion.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
We do liaison reports. I know we have people here for our first ordinance, so maybe we'll just go right into that. We have two second readings, final readings, each of which will have a public comment portion and hearing on the topic. The first one, item 11A, ordinance 915. Christine, if you could read this one by title.
I actually do not have it in front of me. Jerry, do you have that, buddy?
I think I took this copy, so it's amending chapter 7A, traffic schedules, schedule V, Roman 7 stop intersections of the code of the borough of Hopewell to establish always stop control at the intersection of Columbia Avenue and Seminary Avenue. For the explanation, I'll ask Krista to do a little bit, and I think she has a couple of slides that I will put up on the screen. Then we will get into our public hearing. And for those online, I'm something children will say, I'm very old and need glasses, and I cannot see the button. Christine, if you could literally tell me, like, should I go left, right? Where do I get to the slideshow? And so I can play, because I cannot actually see it. Right, that slideshow. And for beginning, is that here?
Yes.
All right, yeah, and I'm gonna, for those of you online, give me a second, and I'll share the screen, and then Krista, feel free to begin.
Right, so the borough engineer has approved the installation of an all-way stop at the intersection of Columbia and Seminary Avenues. This comes after residents requested signage due to concerns over speeding and cut through traffic, especially it being so close to the elementary school. Slide, please. This is a ghost bike. It's in honor of a cyclist who was killed at Broad in Princeton. We've had too many fatal crashes and too many crashes resulting in serious injuries. In 2022, the borough passed a Vision Zero resolution, which commits us to improving traffic safety. The policy states that we believe that the only acceptable number of fatalities and serious injuries caused by traffic violence is 0. And that reaching 0 deaths requires the implementation of a safe systems approach, which is founded on the principles that humans make mistakes and that human bodies have limited ability to tolerate crash impacts. In a safe system, these mistakes should never lead to death. This requires proactive traffic calming and planning. The purpose of school area safety treatments is prevention. Waiting for crashes before acting would be inconsistent with our complete streets and Vision Zero policies. Slide. So we've made some progress over the years with improving traffic safety, but the work will never really be done. We have the walking audit that we did to get the school travel plan from the Greater Mercer TMA. We have PB Sax County Roads Report, which we spoke about earlier. And those give us the beginnings of a picture and can offer us guidance as to how we should start to improve safety, especially for our most vulnerable road users. The reduction of the speed limit on Broad Street, prohibiting right-hand turns during red lights at our signalized intersections, traffic calming projects, and our commitment to complete streets and Vision Zero policies will set us up for success. They not only increase the town's safety, but they signal to potential funding sources that Hopewell Borough is a sound investment and a municipality that prioritizes safety. They are not enough. We must continue to seize opportunities to make our roads safer. It probably makes sense to you that a more walkable town leads to better health for residents, but did you know that a walkability boosts local businesses and increases home values? In a typical market, an additional 1 point increase in the walking score is associated with between a $500 and $3,000 increase in home values. So this is a map of the area around the intersection of Columbia and Seminary Avenues, showing the location of the fire department and the Hopewell Elementary School. And full disclosure, I am aware that I do not have a future as a cartographer, so please don't judge me on this. Next slide. So this blue line has been added. It's running along Seminary Avenue, and it shows a popular route that elementary school children take to get to school. This intersection is one of the key crossing points for families that walk and bike to HES. And then we have the line here showing cut-through traffic on Columbia Avenue. And I know complaints about this have been going on for many years, certainly long before I came here. So installing stop signs is close to schools is standard practice, as I think I mentioned earlier. When evaluating the situation, the borough engineer concluded that the intersection of Columbia Avenue and Seminary Avenue is generally more heavily traveled than in years past, as drivers are more frequently using Columbia Avenue as a pass-by for East Broad Street. The resulting ramifications of this include the potential for an increase in vehicle, pedestrian, and cyclist crashes or incidents. This intersection is 1 block away from Hopewell Elementary School and YMCA Aftercare, both of which serve the community, but particularly borough residents under age 12. Many of these children and their parents or guardians walk past this intersection in order to reach their destinations. As a means to be proactive with respect to the traffic calming in this area while promoting pedestrian safety and general welfare for the community, always stop control presents a viable option as mitigation measures at this intersection. So here we see some of the traffic counts. I reached out to the Greater Mercer TMA. The traffic counts are from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission from earlier this year in March. So they're pretty accurate and relevant. And I asked the GMTMA to do sort of a deeper dive into what this would mean for volume and potential congestion at this intersection. So the average Cars per hour during peak traffic here is 190. So this would translate to approximately 3 vehicles a minute. The intersection can accommodate around 13 vehicles a minute without any significant buildup. So I know many of you have seen this image before, but I think it's really powerful. It shows us how quickly speeds become dangerous and how slowing traffic in the borough can result in fewer fatalities and serious injuries for vulnerable road users. As we sit here today, only 2 council members remain who were here in 2022 when they passed the Vision Zero resolution. But I believe that they and the rest of us on this council still support the goal of 0 traffic-related deaths and serious injuries. In fact, most of the people on the current council made traffic safety part of their platforms when they saw your vote. Well, we live in a small but special town and have suffered way too many losses due to traffic violence. As we work to build a unified structure of proactive pedestrian and bike safety improvements, from signage to paint to signals to physical structures like bump outs and medians, every step we take counts towards overall safety and well-being of our town. Thank you.
Okay. So I will open the floor for the public hearing on this matter. First of those in person and then online.
You need a motion to do.
I need a motion to open the floor.
I would suggest for the record to do that.
I'll make a motion.
Second to open it, like I say, all in favor of opening the meeting for public comment? Opposed? Any abstentions from this motion? Before we start, I have both been asked to, and said I would, particularly out of deference for our first responders. And in the last couple of weeks, even before introduction of this ordinance, we have been working to try to get the feedback and buy-in, but understanding of I think one of our most significant and important stakeholders in this whole town, but in the neighborhood, and our fire and EMS. Our administrator and I met with Chief Benton prior to the introduction, and we had a meeting with our engineers about 2 weeks ago. Ultimately, again, I'm passing along. There was a letter to council. Kind of described as serious and strong objections from our first responders at this point to the stop signs. And again, out of deference to them, I at least wanted to make sure. I know some of their representations are here this evening. Some of them had other obligations. I just want to make sure I at least said that and share that as part of the public hearing. Again, we're all so appreciative of everything they do, and their thoughts, particularly in the neighborhood, are quite important, and I don't want that to be lost in any way. But with that, I'd like to end my interruption of the previously open floor for public comments, questions, or anything sent to the public hearing on this ordinance.
Again, Steve Webb, a 32-year member of the borough, 29-year member of the fire department, and also volunteer emergency coordinator for the borough. I can see the question about the 4-way stop at this intersection. The problem is that it's not people going to the school, it's people cutting through the borough. If you have that 4-way stop at that intersection, traffic is going to back up around the corner to the traffic light at Greenwood and Broad Street. The big thing with the fire department emergency medical is if we get a call during those rush hours pulling out of the station, either the fire or EMS, we're going to have a problem with traffic. That 4-way stop is going to stop traffic on Columbia Avenue. We have to get our ambulance or our truck down Columbia Avenue. We have to dodge around traffic that are going to be sitting there. At one of the meetings, the engineer admitted that he didn't know that the post office was there, that the pharmacy was there. It is a big thing. It is going to delay things. We're going to have, I think the only accidents that we've had on Columbia are side swipes when people not paying attention to swiping, we're gonna have more. You've got a large fire truck, an ambulance responding to a call, it's gonna slow down our response time. Because we're gonna have traffic backed up in Columbia. And if we're talking about, on your slideshow, you talked about speed limit 40 miles an hour, that there's more pedestrian injuries. Why are we talking about a four-way stop there when we've talked, I've talked to the mayor previous time about North Greenwood Avenue, where the speed limit is 25 miles an hour, but once people get to Center Street, they're doing more than 40 miles an hour. As somebody who lives on Front Street, I've had a neighbor next door who was moved out of the borough into the township because his kids are getting to the point where they're gonna be driving, and he's afraid for them pulling out of North Greenwood Avenue. There have been numerous times pulling out on Front Street, people flying over the railroad tracks, blowing the horn at me because I'm pulling out on the road. And the thing that come up before about, speed humps, that's not gonna work. When we've got a 2,000 gallon tanker who's responding to call a township, that's gonna slow response time. It's gonna damage our vehicles. The big thing that would stop this is more police presence in the borough. Having grown up in New Brunswick as a kid, I knew in Milltown, if speed limit was 25, if you did 27, you got pulled over, you got a ticket. If we have the borough police there present, it's gonna slow people coming down. It's not the people who live in the borough that are violating this, it's people who are transiting through the borough to get to wherever they're going. So if we have a presence, a police presence, it's gonna slow people down. And I see having this four-way stop at the intersection, it's kind of ludicrous. Because a lot of the students who are going to school come through the intersection by the, North Greenwood and Columbia and Broad Street and go through either Park or down Columbia Avenue. It's having that four-way stop is gonna slow things down. That's my opinion as somebody who's been here and who had to respond on that street when there are people there. Right now, when there's no four-way stop, it's difficult as it is. We put that four-way stop, as we come out of the squad bay, we're gonna have to sit there and wait until there's an opening, or go around to the traffic light and go around Broad Street, which is gonna slow our response time. As you know, whether it's fire EMS, seconds matter. If it's your house on fire or somebody's having cardiac arrest, those seconds could mean life or death. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Previously, Philip DeCosmo, North Greenwood Ave, and I couldn't agree with you more about Greenwood Ave. I call it Greenwood Speedway. As far as the EMS and the fire department, I have total respect for it. But I worked in New York City for 40 years, and I never, ever saw a problem with firemen or the ambulance getting around, because they have these things on top called sirens, and they get around traffic with no problem. So to hear that that's gonna be a problem, I find it hard to believe, because those sirens, I hear them all the way up by the cemetery on North Greenwood Ave. So I don't think that's a problem. But what is a problem is that is not a residential road anymore. That's a major thoroughfare there, because people do bypass to get around Broad Street, they go through there. So it's a thoroughfare, it's not a residential road anymore. That's all I have to say.
Audra Tunison, Captain, EMS, Hopewell Fire Department, to talk about what Steve also talked about, is that the department strongly objects to it, because not only the sirens, and I do understand that, but it's a narrow road already. It's clogged right in front of the ambulance bays with parking on one side. We already have some trouble swinging ambulances out of there just with things parked there. If traffic is backed up there, sirens you can blow all day, but if they don't have any place to go with their vehicles, we can't get around them. That's a concern for us. You know, I've lived in the borough for 30 years, and my kids, I walked them to school, they walked to school. They didn't take that route. I don't know if they're trying to correct a problem that isn't a problem. I've never seen an accident there, but we do have side swipes on there when cars are trying to pass in front of the ambulance bays. People have to dive into our apron there to try to get through if it's a larger vehicle. So we do have a concern with that, because now, even in the middle of the night, when there's no traffic, we're gonna have to come to a stop after we pull out, look, before we go, because I feel like it's a problem only when we're having traffic increases, basically when people are going to school or to work. But that is going to be a problem if we have to respond during those times. So, that is basically what we're saying, and for the council to respectfully note that.
Thank you.
Good for you again. I was at the post office the other day. I wasn't gonna talk anymore, but I was at the post office the other day and the siren went off. And there were people trying to park to get into the post office. The truck was coming out and there were cars on the road. And I was thinking, just what you said, like if there's the traffic backed up, I don't know I mean, and this was like a normal day where I was walking down the post office and saw this motion. And I think there's so much with the post office and the fire department, you know, when people are trying to do parallel parking on Greenwood for the post office, it kind of gets backed up there a little bit. And I mean, I only go to the post office once a day usually, but there's always someone trying to parallel park. So I'm just thinking how maybe, I mean, I don't know if they're gonna have to like remove, maybe if you do the four-way stop, then you might have to remove the parking in front, I don't know. Or, you know what I mean? I just think it's something to think about before we pass this. Like maybe the engineer should go to the post office. You can just like observe.
Thank you, Liz.
So that's it.
I mean, I think that, sorry, you can go ahead.
You sure?
Go ahead. Yeah, I think the traffic counts show though that it's relatively low volume, and one of the goals is to prevent more of that class through traffic.
Allison Hughes, Hopewell Borough resident, excuse me, Columbia Avenue. I've been living on Columbia for 9 years and I've only seen the traffic increase. And a lot of that is because Google Maps is taking people that way. So if you slow them down a little bit, because the stop sign, the algorithm will change, less traffic. And so some of the concerns that and I agree, I don't want that happening, will be mitigated just for the fact that the algorithm will take out traffic. And that's what we want. So that's, thank you very much.
Very good.
Hi, my name is Liz Barris-Cosmo, and I'm also a Columbia Avenue resident. I helped draft the petition and the stop sign particularly, sorry. I have 2 little kids. There are 15 kids that live on our street. There are countless kids that, whether it's walk to the elementary school, there are middle schoolers, I believe it's middle school, not high school, that walk on our street to catch a bus. Princeton and Columbia, in the winter, it's pitch black out there because I'm up by 5 a.m. There are so many passersby, families, people walking dogs, whatever it is. I have great respect for the fire department and EMS. My grandfather was a fire chief. So I completely hear, your regards that way. My thought is, if it's not a stop sign, what is it? Because I have heard from neighbors and even passersby that this has been an issue for like decades. And, I've seen supposed successes anyway at Hart Avenue and the like. So my question is just, why can't we do something? Why can't we partner then to figure out something that could actually work? Because I sent my message, but I stand up here too. I don't want my child. It sounds dramatic, but seriously, like, if it's not mine, or even if it's not a child, like, I don't want you having to respond to that. So, we would put forth a stop sign at least to start the conversation. And if it's not a stop sign, then it is a police presence, because we've talked about this with Pennington Borough. Like, you drive into Pennington Borough. I've only lived here for not even 3 years. You drive into Pennington Borough and you slow down just because you've heard that you're gonna get ticketed, like how do they do that? So I don't really, like, if it's a stop sign, it's, that was our thought, like Allison said, like, how do we just deter traffic, period? And then we can alleviate the issues. But if it's not that, I just hope that the conversation can continue in whatever way is appropriate. Because it's just, I don't know, we've only lived there, like you said, for not even 3 years. Like, to corroborate on the evidence, at 5 o'clock today, we just sat at the front of our house for just 20 minutes, there were 60 cars. So like, okay, you get to 180 versus 190, but whatever, like, it's real, and the majority of those are not abiding by the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. So, yeah, I guess we're just here, requesting that there actually are measures that address this issue, like, for once and for all. So, thank you so much for your consideration and for effort and just that's bringing everything to the table. So,
Thank you, Liz.
Thank
I
you.
also want to just say, I think the reason the stop sign is one of the better solutions to the problem is that because the fire department EMS are right there, we talk about speed bumps and how they are bad for the equipment. Any sort of vertical element like that is not going to work there. So this is merely signage. It's not something that's actually impeding travel on the road. So I feel like that's why this was one of the better suggestions.
And let me add to that, and Chief Reed, just so you know, we're still in public discussion, so good time. Let me just, many people speak at our meetings, and with all levels of poise and background, and I want to thank you in particular for not just your approach this evening, the information you brought to us, but for not just starting this conversation. This is an ongoing thing that the council has worked on across town for decades, and we will never stop. But what you initiated with this particular discussion has moved into action, and whether it ends up in the exact action where we started, I'm not sure. But discussions with stakeholders, work and action by our professionals that often members of council don't get for their initiatives. And we have you to thank for pushing this conversation, for making it real. It's things that are important are necessarily uncomfortable, but we have to lean in and do that hard work. And I just, for my own self, as a parent, I could not thank you enough for doing the really difficult thing and bringing this discussion to us here tonight. And then on top of that, the way in which you did it is rare in civics. And we see a lot, and I just cannot thank you enough about the way you've addressed and approached this. Thank you.
I just have one comment, because I've heard this before about Pennington Borough and about how people slow down in Pennington Borough. A friend of mine lives on Main Street, Pennington Borough. Many of us in this room may slow down, but she will testify, most people do not. So you may think that Pennington has this reputation that slows down the traffic, but that is not the reality from the people that I have talked to on the ground in Pennington Borough.
I think we were making a mental connection when that came.
Yes.
I've had both a similar experience, and and one of the luxuries I guess I have from time to time is the mayors all meet, and it's not really funny, but the people in Pennington will say that about us. No one would dare speed in Hopewell Borough, and then we'll hear that about Princeton, and no one will dare. And the reality is that the enforcement is there's like three legs to these stools of managing this. One of them is enforcement, and if that's something we can invest more in. I think our police department is very responsive to us when we ask. They do. I personally don't think that it's ever the answer, particularly because a lot of it is people who are not from the community. They learn their lesson, but they don't come back, and it's the next person.
But enforcement is a very important part of it, but engineering and design is
the physical thing. Signs, we maybe conflated a little bit, speed bumps or other physical elements. I was, again, in one of the things prompted by by this was a discussion with the fire department, and I was surprised to learn, and this still needs much more looking, but while speed bumps are problematic, there are similar, more expensive things to that, like speed tables, that actually may not be a problem. You know, still a lot more work to go there, but so that's these physical things, right? And then the last one is the rules, you know, and you know, we've made the rule, you know, but people don't abide by it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Cantley. I also live on Columbia Avenue, and I'm deeply proud to be the next door neighbor of Liz, who started this conversation. And I'm gonna say the same thing as everybody else. People come through, they drive too fast. They are not part of our community. I have gotten a ticket in Pemberton, and I go the exact speed limit. And then you get this backup of people behind you who maybe want to go faster, but they don't because they're behind me. Anyway, the other thing that I didn't know about Google Maps, but I also know that the people are trying to avoid slowing down on Broad, and they find themselves at this long stack of a stop sign, then maybe they're not gonna try and cut through anymore. Maybe they're just gonna say, screw it, I'm just gonna stay on Broad. It's not worth it to go on this cut through that's not so fast anymore. So maybe even just that would be enough for the psychology of people doing their speed through. And I think we all get into our, like, I just go this way, I just go this way. If we can break that a little bit, that could be something too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Just one more. I know Allison, you didn't mention this, but Allison runs a daycare. So she's constantly carting
coming in and out.
children
I mean,
through that intersection.
just last week, a 2-year-old like just squirmed out of dad's hands and I'm all the time. I mean, Lily's bus, Peach bus has been honked at because they ruined the cut through. So, yeah.
Thank you.
James Cosmo. First, just want to start with a bunch of thank yous. Thank you, council, for hearing this, Krista for spearheading it. To the EMS and fire department, thank you for all you do. Really, really, again, we don't take it lightly what anybody does in those departments, so I'm very grateful. I do just want to name one thing. The council has said on several occasions in this meeting alone how much they rely on experts and expert opinions. Krista has brought forth not only the EMA, but also the engineer's investigation that it was justified to obviously clear data points there. Also, if you look at the traffic study, 4x the number of cars would be required to back up all the way to where it would cause an issue. So what we're talking about is slowing down traffic and just causing enough friction for people to not cut through. We're not talking about backing up past the post office. So just if you're looking at, again, the expert opinions, the data points, I think it's pretty clear again. And as I mentioned, the council has acknowledged how much they do rely on the data and expert opinions. So just want to say again, thank you everybody and appreciate your time.
Thank you. To that point, I just want to add, you know, particularly with our discussion with our partners at the fire department, you know, we've been doing other investigations. You know, our engineer's not here tonight. She might actually be online, but I wish it were as simple as that. There is still some additional work. I mean, well, let's see how we want to how to continue the hearing. Certainly, I don't want to interrupt the public testimony with my thoughts. So, but I will say though that there is additional work product that unfortunately the issue of queuing or backing up may very well be one that is solvable or explainable, you know, by our professionals. At this particular moment, I don't know that they finished that. I think they've done a lot of it, and I'll, you know, where I personally feel that you know, it's not often that there is the thing that is the least expensive might be the best solution, but often that requires a lot more kicking tires to make sure that will be the case. You know, so I do hope we'll have some additional confidence given to us by our engineer. Ultimately, you know, without putting the map up there, my understanding from, you know, from talking with our partners at Fire and EMS is it's not quite that there'd be enough cars to back up to even the entrance, but there is a spot, you know, by the stop sign, where there's no parking, and there's room for what I would, informally call queuing, if a few cars got backed up, there would be, I think, room for an emergency vehicle to go around them on the wrong side of the road. There is, I think, a technical question about how many stack up there, how many might be in that situation, and whether there's enough room for a truck to get by it. I don't know myself if I've fully seen the answer to that. I suspect the answer will eventually, look, I'm not an engineer. I don't want to preview what would convince me or someone else, but I do understand, after additional discussions, it is a nuanced, but potential concern that certainly is getting vetted, and I don't know if that means additional work where we have the confidence to proceed and try it. This is unfortunately the one area where the mayor of Zone thinks you're the all-powerful Oz. I actually don't have a vote here. I could break ties, I suppose. That's how.
Are we saying we're not ready to take a vote?
Well, I'm not. I'm suggesting that maybe one of the considerations that may be amongst the considerations for the council.
Yeah.
Well, we have not closed it, so if certainly anyone want to speak, Chief Reed, if you want to.
Good evening, everyone. Everyone from the fire department is grateful to discuss a topic that has 4 vowels in a row, queuing. There are very few words in the English galaxy that have so many vowels. Lieutenant Webb, any other words you can think of that have so many vowels?
Not this time.
So, my lieutenant, Steve Webb, is a borough resident for 3 decades. He's a decorated Army veteran, former police officer, continues to serve here in Montgomery. And he had surgery today by the kind of anachronistic dental band on his face. Not sure really what happened, but Steve is a consummate servant leader of our department. Audrey Tunison, who's an EMT and nurse, and she's a leader in clinical medicine in the Princeton school system. We have an incredible group of volunteers that serve every day, 24/7. I missed 2 fire calls today. I made 2 squad calls today. I missed 2 fire calls in preparing for the meeting tonight. I'm sorry I'm a bit late, but I had 3 other events that all were exclusively related to advancing the fire department's mission and serving the public. And I appreciate Jerry and the mayor and Mrs. Hook's commitment to us and the entire board's commitment to not only our public safety mission, but to the borough, our historic borough. A member of which I've been a community member since 1982 when I went to the Baptist nursery school when we had one at East Broad and Greenwood Avenue. So in 2010, a number of friends and I started what was called the Aquinas Institute Task Force on Transportation at Princeton University. So we brought together really incredible, smart, dynamic engineers, economists, policy experts to discuss traffic matters. And it's kind of interesting, 16 years later, that I have the opportunity to discuss this important stuff with you. And I appreciate the mayor's leadership and the borough administrator's support, Mrs. Hook's support. I want to bring to your attention, because you had some cogent comments about engineering. We rely on experts to kind of guide the ship and get the compass going. In a conference call that we had, was it Friday the 23rd or 24th last week? Yeah, I think so. Thereabouts, and I think it's referencing. Regrettably, the engineers were woefully unprepared. They had no idea about the theater, the post office, the new bistro, our wonderful small businesses on Seminary. And so in order for them to get the right answer, we have to ask them the right question. And so in order for the right question to be asked, you have to know what are the inputs and also mull over any positive or negative externalities. And we have a really good team from varied backgrounds, from white collar, blue collar, people that haven't gone to college, people that have PhDs, people that are in medicine, and in all areas, engineering, finance, security, law enforcement. And and we draw upon all those experts, people that would be considered SMEs or subject matter experts in front of a judge to come up with a best solution. And when we heard about this initiative, and we heard that it had advanced to a point of hey, the council's gonna vote on it, we were pretty shocked that we weren't engaged. And I understand with this petition that there was some misframing, and that's what it is. I speak with kindness and respect, but there was some misframing that, oh yeah, the fire department signed off on this, where we did not. And so I respect and love all of our neighbors, and we appreciate the council support and their support. And a number of our department members are neighbors within a foul ball's distance of that intersection, and they knew nothing about the initiative. And they thought, wow, like, there's gonna be a lot of queuing. We did some research, we love data, we love cogitating data. And since 2004, the police department has only responded to side swipes. There haven't been pedestrian. I've been a member since 1995. Steve, when did you start volunteering? 96, 95?
93.
93. Chief Fenton, 1976, although he looks much younger. Luke Morehouse, my deputy chief, who's like a big teddy bear, he's 6'9", Sky's son.
What's the point? What's the point?
I'm just giving you some background on the profile on the service that provides you with when you call 911, you're gonna see this face, you're gonna see that face, you're gonna see that face.
You're a siren, and cars get out of your way.
Right, but there's no room, sir, to get out of there. Also, I'm familiar with how these forms work, and I'm happy to, we can talk offline, but I think I have a few minutes.
Yes.
As someone who,
If we could, we try to keep things orderly and informal, and do our best not to limit your time at the same time, so if we could also,
Did you say there's a 5 minute?
so
start the, I'll talk for 5 minutes and then I can give my time to another
so
responder
to
here.
read,
So anyway, we've looked at this, and if there were 5 paramount security matters that we would hope we could partner with the council on, this is not one of them. There will be substantial queuing. We've suggested, we have a lot of really good, kind law enforcement members within our department. Running radar and having the police presence there could help deter the behavior of speeding. But there haven't been, if there were pedestrians struck and car accidents at that intersection, we would be leaning into this with you, but we can't lean into it with you. We had our department meeting on Tuesday night. We had 44 members there, 44 volunteers that saved the borough a lot of money. Because the alternative is career staff union, and it's in the millions. So not one person in our department meeting from age 15 to, how old's Colonel Myers, 85? 84.
let's keep the back and forth to.
Okay, no, I just wanna make sure I'm presenting the council with one of my officers.
Understood.
So from 15 to 85, not one person thought, wow, hey, let's talk about this. And we have an environment, we have created an environment where you can be an outside, a detractor to whatever we're talking about. You can be a counter to the position that the majority has taken. And universally, out of every member there, they're like, what is going on? A stop sign, there's no room on the street. As I know Captain Tunison captured what I know I sent you the message that I hope gets memorialized. There's no room on that street for 2 vehicles, either bi-directional, plus the parked vehicles, plus an emergency responder. Notwithstanding, we have responders coming in. So I just asked, let's take a breath. Let's look at this a little bit more. Let's continue the, Mayor Kennedy, one of the wonderful things about you, you're a servant leader. You foster conversation from all angles. We appreciate that. Mrs. Weger, we appreciate your imperative on safety. Or President, Council President.
That's the council president.
Oh, forgive me. Safety is our raison d'etre. We are aggressively, we're apex safety. And so this is not the best prescription to create safety or vis-a-vis the motoring public or pedestrians. It's not. And we're all, I bike, I run, I drive. And so do our team. And this is not the prescription. Thank you.
Thank you.
Or if you have any questions?
Oh, no, I was just gonna point out that the data actually shows no traffic count. You weren't here earlier when we discussed this, that there would probably not be significant queuing there. We have a traffic count from earlier this year that shows that. And we have transportation professionals come and give us an analysis of that. Also, we don't wait until someone gets hit by a car. We are committed to complete street and vision zero policies here. We have passed them here on the council. And that means that we are proactive when it comes to pedestrian and bike safety here.
Do you think we're not?
I'm not saying you're not.
Okay, so also you're experts. They never discussed this to cogitate the data. We're all about data. All about it.
I just did a.
But so the question then, ma'am, is why did this get to a initial round without discussing this with them? This is really tough for us to swallow. So anyway, I don't want.
Yeah,
we can talk about
that
it more.
particular point. I do not want to belabor because I know well, both are all our mutual respects. And again, I'll say
profound
tonight. Honestly, I think is what's supposed to happen when we start an initiative prompted by citizens, consult with our experts, engage our very important stakeholders, and gather all that information. That is what tonight represents. It is not the beginning, and it's usually not the end of a process. That'll be up for council. I feel the room is. I'm able to read the room, or at least this side of it, about perhaps the need for some additional information to continue a discussion about what the best solution is. But what I think is important not to get lost on, though, is that we are constrained by our processes. And one of the important ones is so that we can have these discussions, although regrettably, I think the camera needs to be reset. I was about to say it done and open and on video, and here it's not being recorded. Maybe someone could flip the switch again, and we'll add to our list for next week for budget things. Maybe another OWL camera would be in the works. With apologies to those online, you're now looking just right at my face from my laptop screen, and that is, I'm sure, uncomfortable for everyone. But again, with apologies, there are, in doing an initiative like this, again, with applause to residents for bringing this forward and participating in it, one of the essential elements is to bring it to a head publicly like this. That doesn't mean it happens. It might mean there's more input. It might mean sometimes it does happen when there's total agreement. But it is our goal as a governing body to gather that. And this is one piece of it. And sometimes I'm pausing. Folks, is to make sure that an element of it is done publicly. And that maybe a lot more, or a good amount more to be done on this one. But I guess I would not meaning to interject, Chief, at all, but did want to, note from a process perspective that it's not we're hampered by it, but we start things, engage as many people as we can, and and particularly important ones. And with as many resources we possibly can put together to get to the right solution. So.
Do you have any questions about the letter that was submitted to you earlier today?
I do not.
Can you read for everyone to hear my email language? Do you have that up?
I don't have it up. Before you came, I did, as I said I would. I didn't read it, but I did, not knowing you would be here.
May I read it? Briefly, it's 2 lines.
I would suggest maybe you read the room up here a bit.
I'm not going to read the letter.
No, not read your letter, not your email, but to read maybe the reaction from council about where they're headed with this and whether additional testimony is needed at this point. Maybe be safe.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks.
Questions?
Any questions for the chief? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, am I allowed to come back?
Please, we're not done or close.
Thank you. Philip DeCosmo, resident, North Greenwood Ave. Krista, maybe you can answer this. When was the petition brought forward to the council? March?
Yeah, I think March
So
sounds,
we're talking March, April, May, 3 months?
Yeah.
And the fire department just found out about it yesterday?
no, they knew about it in February. I think the concern was that they didn't have a formal discussion about it. The liaison to the fire department, is the person who was supposed to be liaising with them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And my other question is, Chief, maybe you could answer this. If there's a fire in Hopewell and you get a call, are you the only town that goes to that fire? Or are there several towns?
What we have is an automatic response plan that's more robust than just us. So we'll have Pennington come in, Rocky Hill, Princeton, Titusville.
So there are several towns.
There are several, but
Depending on.
depending on the severity of the call, the response gets escalated.
So if there's a gas call, say I call and I smell gas, you're gonna be the only one that come up, no other?
It depends on the time of day. So it's dynamic. So if it's during the day, it'll be our department and Pennington.
Okay, so in a town where there's 18, what did we say, 1,800?
Not 1900.
1,900 people.
Yeah.
There are several towns that will come here. Besides.
Not several, Pennington will
Okay.
respond.
Okay.
Yeah, but also, sir, just so you know, we were not aware of this petition until 2 weeks ago.
Well, there's something else. You said that on the.
So that's,
Chief,
we were not aware of that petition.
But you said that on the petition, you said that
if we,
the fire department signed off on it?
I'm gonna, hold on.
We did not sign.
This is rare, but, we're in a public hearing to gather information on an ordinance. We need to create a record about, hold on, we'll get to continue. It is unfortunately necessary for me to corral the discussion and direct it this way. We do our best to be flexible. There was a very helpful back and forth between you and Chief Reed there on, but it unfortunately doesn't really work mechanically with this. So I'll just, with it, as best I can, ask you to continue, but we could.
This is a question.
Please, yes.
Why are you pushing, and it seems to me at least, you're pushing to push this vote off tonight?
It does seem that way.
Why are you doing that? It's been with you since March. You guys have discussed it, and yet you're up there saying, maybe we should get more information. Maybe we should, why are we pushing?
Well, this is the first time it's brought up the council as to talk about it. I mean, to really talk, to discuss it. It was a first reading, right?
That's right.
This is the time we actually discuss it. And, just like a project I can't talk about, it was sometimes good to slow things down to get a better understanding of it. And also the time of year, it's May, school lets out, I believe, in June. Even if it was passed, let's say, how long would it take to get stop signs up and all of that sort of thing? Probably not the next day, probably 2 weeks, a month, I don't know. But, I have so many questions now, because I came in here with one way of thinking about it. Then I'm hearing another side, and that's what I do as an architect. I'm always like, probably all businesses. But there are so many questions. There's like crossing guards. Does that need to increase? How about what we do on Model Avenue, I believe, with no turning 6:30 to 9:30? Is the problem during school hours to address, you're having the 2 kids, which I'm, really in tune with. Is that a solution? How do you stop the cut through? Like, where's the problem? Is it just the seminary, or is it at
I
Columbia?
understand all this, but it's a shame on the council that this hasn't been discussed before a vote's ready to come.
It takes time to gather information. That's the one thing that's on our.
It should have been brought up for a vote tonight.
Well,
It should have been discussed first and then brought up for a
let
vote.
me try there too. As much sense as what you're saying makes, that is actually the opposite of how government has to act. We cannot and do not speak on substantive issues when the public can't be part of that. That's why it has to happen tonight. That's why we have to tell the world about it. I know that the chief was very unhappy, very, and I cannot stress enough about the process here. And it goes both ways, unfortunately. Our administrator and I, we sat down with his counterpart in the fire department before it was introduced and had lunch. Look, this is coming. We will try to get our engineer together with you, and we did that. They are clearly not satisfied. We may hear that there's people up here that aren't satisfied, but these discussions, getting the public information, together has to happen here.
I understand.
and
It
you,
should have been up for a vote, that's all I'm saying. It should have been up for a vote tonight, it should have been a public hearing tonight. Then.
literally, that is, we haven't finished the public hearing.
That's what we're doing.
But there'll either be a vote or the council will say, well, what's called, continue the meeting.
We don't have to allow that.
Okay, just one last thing, I think Allison said it best, it will change the algorithm for Google Maps and Waze, not to cut through and make it a residential road. Thank you for taking your time, chief, thank you.
I just have a question as if the mayor does not vote in this, why are you persuading everyone or trying to push everyone to table it?
Well, I feel it's my duty as being the one speaking with the stakeholders here and gathering the information from the engineer to share that with council and the public. We had a meeting with the fire department and our engineers a week and a half ago. There were things that were supposed to be done as a result of the meeting. We had another meeting internally yesterday. We got this afternoon some type of document that I don't think answered any of the questions I had, to be honest with you, about whether the points they've made are concerns or that we should be satisfied that they wouldn't be. I mean, I'll say personally, like I said this before, I think this is the least expensive and probably the most effective thing that can be done there. And I hope to be convinced that it won't be a problem for our emergency services. I think that's something that could happen with additional input from our engineer. But I personally haven't, for myself, seen it. Please, we have not finished yet.
Allison Hughes, Columbia Avenue. So, like other moms on my street, I have 3 kids. I have 4 babies entrusted to my care during the day. I care deeply about all of those children. I care deeply about what the EMS and the fire do. What can be, I think, undone is a stop sign. If we do see it becoming a problem sooner rather than later. What can't be undone is a baby being hit by a car. And I get my babies into my minivan and I have been honked at and my car door has been hit because people go 40. If they were actually going the speed limit or slowing down, they could safely get around me. They would not even be there because before I said the algorithm would not take them that way. It's no longer residential. And like I said, you could take a stop sign down, but you can't get a life back. Thank you.
So.
Liz Barris to Cosmo. Just could you clarify? I should come use my before, but I don't. So I'm not clear on the process. It is not voted on tonight. Can you explain the process? You know, the continued process. And if the stop sign is shut down, what is the best way to continue the conversation, and how can, you know, obviously council, fire department residents, how can we all be in conversation to, you know, arrive at something that, you know, if it's not a stop sign, that still meets each party's needs, you know, but still creates change.
Excellent question. I'll attempt to start. For rules like a stop sign, they're done by ordinance, so it is a vote of council that could happen tonight. The options of council going forward are, first would be to complete the public hearing. You know, we're done taking information in, and someone make a motion either for or against. That would either pass it or, for the moment, you know, this particular ordinance with this number, kill it. Another option would be to carry the public hearing, means that we're not done taking information. We would usually carry it to another date certain, say like we would continue this discussion, the public hearing's not over, it would continue at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And then possibly council would be hear different things, more things at that point. Likely, I think in this case, would probably get additional information from the professionals on the topic in between, as part of their, you know, guidance that the staff and our engineer provide. So that's one option. Then it could either be continued again, or voted one way or the other once the hearing is. So that's kind of the options for an ordinance, and it's up to, I mean, I guess with the exception of me, I guess vetoing something which I don't even know how to do. That's, you know, a council decision, and you know, you're right. I feel like when I say know a little bit more, I don't mean that I have subject matter expertise, other than I've been in as a position of mayor, more of the conversations the last couple of weeks and the flutter of information that comes together preparing for one of these meetings, of which this is one of, unfortunately for those who are here to talk about budget or other things, you know, one of many things to talk about tonight. Doesn't mean we stop or it's not important, but you know, so I get to see more of those things, and was, you know, on the call with the fire department, our engineers, and, you know, on a call with Krista and our engineers and administrator yesterday. Only a few of us at a time can do that without it breaking the rules of our discussions need to be here in open like this. So those are kind of the options. I'll also say one thing I think is abundant, I hope, is the commitment, no matter what the specific answer of everyone here, to continue pursuing something, whether it's this or something similar or something that no one's thought of yet, until we're not living. You know, that's this, you know, we're going to keep reacting and trying to find the best thing, and it might be this, it might be something else. And I also, you know, want to add to that, we're coming to a time where things that we may not have considered because they were a challenging balance of, you know, tax burden and things that we really care about, you know, we're perhaps entering a time where those balancing is a little different than it had been in the past. You know, this is, I would imagine, the type of thing that we hear from a lot of residents is, you know, we should physically invest more. You know, if the answer is a speed table and it's more expensive, or flashing lights, something like that, that we couldn't, the question about whether we can afford it is a different question now than it might have been a few years ago. But those conversations happen there as well. So
Well, I think a lot of those options are an and, not an or. It's a stop sign and a speed table, not a stop sign or a speed table.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I don't know if it's been brought to council, the speed bumps in the past or whatnot, or, you know, if it's just been like spoken about, but I was just curious. I just don't want it to like be totally killed. And that's all.
I mean, it's really complicated, right? I mean, you live in a small town like this, we have narrow streets, right? I remember when I first moved here in '97 and I spoke with Councilman Knights. And that's when the council used to meet at the firehouse. And he goes, oh yeah, so, you know, we're gonna move. I said, wait a minute, why are we moving? Like, no, we should stay there. And the fire department needs to move to Broad Street because there are big turning radiuses on Broad, that's why it's called Broad Street. And he goes, yeah, that's great. Where are we gonna get the money for that? You just can't, you know, and I said, well, maybe an anonymous donor, and just don't do that. And she was very kind to this borough. And, you know, and that's the problem. I mean, all these things you're trying to fit, I mean,
narrow
roads, you have how about a theater across from a firehouse? Are you kidding me? Like, really? Two theaters. So I'm saying it's complicated, and what I'm just getting at is sometimes just taking an extra month, not an extra 6 months, because yeah, I agree, there's children's lives at stake here. And is it just during, is the concern because of the daycare, is it like all the time you're worried? Is it more at the rush hour?
During the evening, school dismissal, because it's not just residential vehicles. You should see, I assume they're coming from the elementary school, the huge buses. Holy cow. And it's a series of them. So I think it's around like 3:30. It's school buses. And then, yeah, I would say that's the heavy, but like, you know, even, when you wake up, you know, between the hours of like 5 and 6:30, people are cruising through the mail truck coming from the post office. You know, it's like at those times of day, like very early morning, late at night, it's more so commercial vehicles.
It's a lot, yeah.
So it's, you know, it's not every moment, but there are a solid amount of chunks through the day. Maybe it varies based on like what type of vehicle it is. But it's pretty, you know, consistent, like, in the.
Well, thank you for asking that, and thank you because honestly, I've heard some of that, and only very recently. not living on the street, but, had some assumptions about what the problem was. And that was very helpful to hear. I wasn't, before a couple weeks ago, really thinking about, well, speeding early, off peak times when there's not traffic, plus the possible issues during when there's school children crossing, they're kind of different. It might be solved by the same thing, to be honest with you, but I don't know. But hearing this is helpful for everyone, I think, to understand some of the aspects of the, when and what and I wish we knew who,
No, we all appreciate you just, considering the complexity of it all, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're right. I appreciate the back and forth, especially with the way things are politics now, they talk about, I appreciate everything from our fellow residents. Something that came up to me is like having a four-way stop, somebody's cutting through. What's gonna stop them from speeding up from Seminary to Princeton Avenue because they're slowed down by the stop sign? So instead of doing 25, doing 40 to get up to Princeton Avenue because we've delayed that. That's something we have to look at. That stop sign might stop them there, but it's not gonna stop them from speeding up because it's delayed their progress. Councilman Buddha said, maybe the thing is start off with a crossing guard there. To stop traffic as people are going and see how it works. See if it slows people down, let people go through. So we don't have it 24 hours a day, just when people are going through and see how that works. And then if it works, then continue with that. If it doesn't work, then look into a stop sign or something else, but just plan that out and see that instead of just going, we're gonna do this, let's try it incrementally, see if it works.
So you think they'll have a crossing guard at 5 o'clock?
You gotta have it on the record, Mayor.
So, well, we heard your comment, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not just during school hours, is what these people are saying. They're saying it is every time they live there. So I cross there with my daughters when I take them to school and I bring them home. I see there's a problem, but I'm only there at pickup and drop off. These folks are there all the time. And these are the ones who said, we need to do something.
Well, I also see, like say, coming down Greenwood Avenue, people see the truck come over the bridge and see the truck light is red. They make a turn down Railroad Avenue and fly down Railroad Avenue to stop the traffic light. So it's not just one area that we're having different areas where people going through that needs to be looked at.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know. So I don't want to stop anyone from, this may not be the end necessarily of public comment, but for the moment, we're gonna, unless there's someone else who'd like to speak at this moment, I'm gonna ask at least for council to consider a motion at this point. And as we talked before, I think the options are we can close the public hearing and someone can move on sorry, help me out, make sure I'm not misstating, but we're still on public hearing. The options for motions could be to continue the public hearing, to close it, and then possibly for a motion on the actual ordinance.
That's correct. If you decide on a motion to continue the public hearing, pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act, it's clear, the record should be clear, you're not tabling this. The hearing would continue. I would suggest something to the effect that someone move to continue the public hearing and further consideration of ordinance 915 to the council meeting of June 4th, 2026 at 7 p.m. at the Hopewell Borough Municipal Building. That would suffice the Open Public Meeting Act so that you do not have to the clerk does not have to re-advertise the public hearing, which hopefully we do not have to do. But you're also correct, Mayor, in that there could be other motions to call the vote, to close the public hearing and then have the vote. But you certainly are within your rights, your bounds, your ability to continue the public hearing to secure more information from your professionals and or other participants in the borough. That's your discretion.
Well, it sounds like that's been decided before the meeting began.
I'll move to continue the public hearing.
At a time certain, which just for the record would be June 4th at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Or shortly thereafter at the Hopewell Borough Municipal Building. So there's no need for, republication.
Well, I said first, you said second.
Oh, I'm sorry, you said second?
Yeah.
Roll call vote on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Buddha,
Yes.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Hook, and still you have to abstain. Ms. Steeler? Yes. Ms. Weaver?
No.
Ms. Wallenius?
Yes.
All right, so, public hearing will continue, at our next meeting, and we'll have another session like this where we'll take additional comments and, similarly, we, many people have sent things, by email as well. That's, there's plenty of ways to interact with, council and us and, continue doing anything that we feel is helpful for us to know. Much appreciated.
To the Cosmo family, I just want to say that I am so sorry. I know that you guys have put your heart into this and you've done so much work for this. I'm sorry it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to, and I think it just goes to show that policy and words are so much easier than action.
No, I mean, I don't know if I want to say. I totally agree.
Get on the mic, come on. Yeah, come on up. You've earned a talking time.
I'm not upset about the not voting, which is all this fair. Not upset about the not voting. I completely respect the need to make an informed decision, and so I just have to know that, and I respect that, and I just want it to be a continued conversation. What I hear from neighbors is that it's been a conversation. It's like, then one will really take action. That's my biggest thing, and like just helping with partner.
Yeah.
That's I don't care how it is or what it is, but I just want to say
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
So I will, Chief,
One question?
I'll take a brief, I'll call a point of order, but we do have to move on with the meeting.
Mrs. Hook is our liaison and she didn't vote.
No.
There was just a motion with regard to continuing. It's not on the.
It's not a vote on the ordinance.
It has nothing to do with the substantive nature of the ordinance.
No, I understand that.
She lives on
at the
that
intersection.
corner.
Okay, we've had other traffic initiatives proximally to the firehouse that we were not discussed, specifically the no turn on red, which I provided the solution. And Mrs. Weaver didn't continue to vote on that. So why does Mrs. Hook have to abstain?
Doesn't have to.
I
Sure,
didn't continue to vote on what. I'm following you.
The no turn on red that hurts us, that almost caused an accident yesterday, which I didn't want to bring up because it's, you'll say it's a non sequitur. It's not a non sequitur to us. I will respond.
Thank you for my comment tonight. I much appreciate it, Chief. All right, our next public hearing, item 11B, ordinance 916, second reading. This is an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limits and establish a cap bank as per New Jersey statutes annotated 40A 4-45.14. So we don't often have her, and I apologize to her. Well, an interesting evening, and you've gotten to hear a lot of things that are not about finance. But I'll give you the honor of doing the explanation of what is usually a very quite pro forma ordinance, but now's your time.
Okay, so the cap bank ordinance is adopted annually. We've done it every year. It's kind of a housekeeping thing. It's a best practice for the borough of Hopewell. It's a requirement of the state. It allows the borough to increase the budget appropriation up to 3.5% within state mandated caps and establish a cap bank for future years. So you put it in a bank and it's good for 3 years if you don't use it. It's been very helpful to help with our health care increases, our pension increases. So that's what it's used for. So you still have the levy cap side to keep it in check.
What's the after 3 years?
If you don't use it, which we did use, we will use, it goes away.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it
It's
drops
like
off.
your FHA or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to the
But you have 3 years, not
And this goes to the provision about spending, not the provision of taxes.
it's for both, but we don't use, we're okay with the levy cap.
Okay.
Is there a microphone available that the financial person can speak into, so maybe?
I'm not sure, we have a small group tonight, I don't know if it's actually on, so we'll ask her to, project.
Yeah.
That would be great, thank you.
Okay, so I will now, if there's any other questions from council for our CFO, and actually, well, for those online, you're not at many of these meetings, just introduce yourself, you're
Okay.
our chief financial officer.
Diane McDaniel, I'm the chief financial officer.
Okay.
Over.
All right, so I will now, open the public hearing, on ordinance 516, first to those in person, then to those online.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, Tom Mathers.
Well, we need motions for this.
Well, I would prefer it that way, and I can explain it offline with you.
Okay, I'll take a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing.
Second.
Well, I need so first I need a second.
First, you need to go on.
All in,
I'll second it.
how you second, all in favor of opening meeting public hearing? Okay, apologies,
Good.
now,
Tom Masters, resident of Hopewell.
Sorry.
Tom Masters,
Thank you.
Mesters. When I was looking at this, ordinance, to raise the cap on the spending, the difference is what, like 30K or something extra above the normal, tax rate? So what's our reserves in this forward?
So are you talking about the tax levy?
No, the reserve. What's our reserve?
The bank?
Yeah. Do we have $1 million in the bank?
Surplus. Surplus?
Surplus, yeah.
Rather. Yeah, the surplus is $1.8 million.
$1.8 million. We also have a water sale coming up. That will give us $6.4 million to pay off debt.
Mhm.
We're gonna save roughly $1 million in principal and interest. Why do we have this ordinance?
all our professionals say this is one that every town in New Jersey does.
I don't say that not every town is selling their water.
Tom, I mean, again, I'll, if you want to ask questions, we'll do our best to answer. If you're gonna just interrupt, we're not gonna be able to actually do that, so.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you. So for our professionals, this is one we've done every year since I've been involved with government, and every town that I've been around with does this kind of a pro forma way. It may actually be particularly helpful in a year where, I think if I'm understanding this, where maybe other years we may not have needed, but for a year where we have additional revenues, changing the limit on being able to spend another 30,000 of it may be particularly helpful, but maybe.
On the appropriation side, right, because so you're gonna need it on the
So
appropriation.
on the, so if we had not done that, we would actually have some challenges in spending additional revenues as it comes in. So, it's more likely that we probably would use it this year, or, more in the future, I suppose, since we'll be having possibly more revenue, but not more spending.
There's a lot of mechanics to it, like that payment's outside of cap, so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
this,
well,
this is the year you would need it, though, with the increases in insurance and pension. So the appropriation side needed the cap. Needed the cap back.
Okay, but our expected expenses are going down after the water sale.
That's not this year's budget.
Well, I don't.
Yeah, but it's coming soon. That's why I brought up the reserves.
I'll just,
We only need 30,000 out of the reserves to cover us over until we sell the water system. So we don't need this ordinance. We're talking 30K.
Yeah, that's
We
about.
can't find 30K. They are in the reserves.
I think the issue is we can find it, we will have it, but we would be restricted from spending it unless we do. There
Even though
are,
it's in our reserves, we're not physically able to.
There's two
spend it
different
without
things,
the-
there's a surplus and then there's a cap bank. The cap bank is for appropriation.
It's an accounting.
so I think for the point that you're making, Tom, that this is a year particularly important to have the cap bank, because it is a year where, while it's not part of the budget we're about to talk to, because that's the way the finances work, we have to assume it's not happening, but when it does, there will be additional funds available that this would allow us to consider spending, otherwise we would be stuck at the spending part of the cap. This elevates it by the $30,000.
I think it's good to sometimes tighten the belt and not just, oh, let's go for blow through the cap because we can. I don't think we should do that. Financial responsibility means sometimes tightening the belt a little bit and maybe shave off a few things that we don't need to spend money on. We're talking 30K and we couldn't find them, I guess.
So, and just maybe another question, Mark, this is not allocating that money, this is just the process for which we would have the ability to do so, is that right?
Yes, and we would have to vote on running it.
I mean, that's a question for professionals,
Yeah.
oh, the answer's from us.
So if you go to
Correct.
sheet 3B, there's a whole explanation of how we did it.
Good, thank you very much.
Seeing anyone else in person and one online, though, it'll be time to push your hand up on ordinance 916. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance 916. I have a first from Deb, a second from Heidi. We have a roll call. Or, sorry, can I do this by motion? It's been
Just close.
weeks before, since we've done it last, I feel like.
We should, this is for preservation of a record, and, you know, I really would like a roll call.
Very good, roll call. Nope.
Close the public comment, right?
Yes.
So roll call on the close.
Mr. Buda?
Yes.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Ms. Hook? Yes. Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yeah.
Ms. Wallenius?
Yes.
I'll next entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 916.
I'll move.
Do I have a second on that? Deb for the first, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Buda?
Okay.
Roll call.
Mr. Buda?
Yes.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Ms. Hook? Yes. Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Wallenius?
Yes.
Right, next item, and I'm very cognizant that we skipped over public, our liaison reports, we're gonna do that, after our, budget. Yes, and try to save a few minutes of our signal time, item 12 is our municipal budget adoption. I will seek guidance from our professionals as to, a resolution to read budget by total only, someone. That we just, can I take a motion for that? Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah, sure, we take a motion in a second to just adopt or to read the budget by title only.
Oh, I see, that's to avoid actually, okay. thank
I'm
you.
gonna read the whole.
All right, I'm looking for that motion at this point. And, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call on this?
Mr. Buda?
Yes.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Ms. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Wallenius?
Yes.
All right, now, before we start the public hearing, or at the start of it, our administrator, and CFO put some information together. Jerry, you wanna lead this, and, I'll share my screen and, for the online folks, and just tell me when to click next. I will happily do so.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Tonight is, as you know, the public hearing on the 2026 municipal budget. What I would submit to you tonight is that this is a responsible budget, relatively status quo, keeps the same level of services, does so responsibly and meets the needs of our residents. And if you go to our next slide, it'll show the 2026 budget by the numbers. We have a $4.67 million budget. The local purpose tax levy, that's what we collect from businesses and property owners, is $2.47 million. We are using $590,000 in fund balance or surplus, and that leaves us with the remaining, the aforementioned $1.86 million. The use of that surplus is $590,000. So when you see that in the revenue item, that's the amount we're taking to use to balance or to offset the budget this year. That's a little less than last year. I would say that's a conservative draw and still leaves us in a very strong financial position. On the next slide, I just give a breakdown of where the money comes from. This is no surprise, and this is not unique to Hopewell. Consistent with the other 564 municipalities, most of the money a municipality raises comes from local property taxes. And then we get our miscellaneous revenues. That includes things like sewers, court fees, fines, interest on investments, and things of that nature. The previously mentioned surplus, we budget for delinquent taxes based on our tax collection rate, and the minimum library tax is set by statute, and we provide the library with $147,000 and some change. State aid. This sometimes is a slide that might come across as a little wonky, so bear with me. I'll try to break it down as simple as possible. The word aid is a bit of a misnomer because it's not really aid. The analogy I would give you is that as a municipality, we collect all the taxes and we distribute it to the county and the school and any other taxing entities that we have. When this so-called aid first started by the state, it was the energy tax receipts. You know, the utilities would pay to use our streets for their poles and their wires, and et cetera. They would pay the state, and the state would give it to us in the full amount. Sometime around 1980, the state decided they would no longer give us the full amount, or they would collect it and give it to us, but then quickly thereafter, they decided not to give us the full amount. The chart there shows you at what statutorily we should be receiving or should have received over the years versus what we have received over the years. That calculates to about $1.32 million since 2001. That would probably about double the amount of energy tax receipts that we are entitled to. Despite that being a statute, Supreme Court ruled that they could override statute simply by adding an item of appropriations into the state budget. And since that point, we've pretty much never seen the full amount that we were probably entitled to. And again, that's consistent with the other 564 municipalities in the state of New Jersey. So next slide. This is not surprising to anybody here, or probably the audience, because you pay attention to this, but for the sake of the record, I will tell you that 22% of the property tax dollars you pay come to the municipality. The rest go to our other taxing entities like the county, our special district, the library, the open space fund, and the school district, of course, which is the largest. We do have a stable tax rate this year. The tax rate remains at 0.7744. It's been held flat with no change. I say we budget responsibly. We exercise good discipline. We have good deliberations throughout this process. And, you know, this all predates me, obviously. This has been a trend of the borough for quite some time. Now, our levy cap does remain $67,000 under the 2% cap. That's a cap. That's a bank that you're actually allowed to bank for 2 years. Doesn't require a separate ordinance like the appropriation cap does. But as far as we can tell, that there's never been an issue here with exceeding the levy cap, nor have you ever had a referendum. So what's driving the cost in 2026? We have our salaries and wages. We have our police contract, which is up $69,000 as we discussed last week. That is actually less than what it would have been thanks to the negotiations that we had with the township, led by the mayor, to include the pilots in that formula. We are still having discussions, and there's a pretty good chance that that amount will actually even be lower than what it's budgeted for. But we are budgeting based on the amount we have now. Any unused funds would go to fund balance and surplus, just like any other unused line item funds. Stony Brook Sewer went up $10,000. Employee group insurance went up about $20,000. PRS pension went up $7,900, and our statutory and deferred charges like pension, Social Security, and DCRP went up around $15,000. This is a chart that the mayor helped prepare. The mayor did some data research here as a way to compare us to our other communities as it relates to police and how much we spend on policing in the borough. No matter which way you look at it, we spend less on policing than our area municipalities. We compare that with Pennington and Hopewell Township. So whether you're looking at it at average cost per home, average cost per resident, or and based on their 2026 budget, we come out on top in that sense, no matter really which way you look at it. So, you know, notwithstanding any increases, despite the fact that they are going to be lower, we are still in a good position as it pertains to how much we spend on policing. And certainly like to thank our counterparts in the township, my counterpart, their administrator, and their chief for doing a great job for us. Next slide talks about our shared service agreements. We have several, obviously, number one being the police. We partner with the township on public health, animal regulation, senior services, municipal alliance, obviously MS dispatch, and the recycling program through the Mercer County Improvement Authority. This is an example of working with our area communities and taxing entities to provide the most efficient services for the borough, and I would say confidently that we do that. As it relates to debt service, we have, as you know, at this point, a line item of $972,640 for general debt service. That's broken down by bond principal and interest. We are paying that in full, as I've said in a few meetings previously, that the mayor alluded to. As it relates to budgeting for debt service, this is status quo because we can't recognize the water sale funds until they actually come in. When they do come in, we'll work with our financial advisor to pay down all of that debt. And that money will be allocated based on the various things we discussed at the previously mentioned community forums. I do say that, generally speaking, there would be no real need for any general debt service lines in the future budget. But there might be times, again, nobody can predict what the future council will do. You might need to do a short-term note if you're doing a large project and pay that off within a year. So as I mentioned, we have a very healthy surplus position. We're using 590,000. Again, we're remaining with 1.8 million. It protects against emergencies, it protects against revenue shortfalls, and it also directly resulted in a strong bond rating the last time the borough went out for a bond. And we have a tax collection rate of 98.15%. So where do we stand for 2026? As I mentioned a few times, status quo as it relates to services. We're not making any reductions. We're not adding any significant services. The cost pressures I mentioned are universal. They are similar to what every other community is facing: pension, insurance, policing in general, and sewer charges. Again, on a smaller scale, we're a very small borough. Doesn't impact us as dramatically as it might impact larger communities. And then we're going to have strong finances heading into the water sale, and our capital improvements will be driven by community input. Lastly, just how we measure up. Several years ago, there was an article written by one of our renowned CFOs in the state of New Jersey called Fiscal Focus. And he identified several metrics on how a municipality can compare itself to others and how it can judge what its financial position is in relation to their area towns and just really for their own well-being. Now, that article identifies state aid as a percentage of your budget. If you're at less than 10%, that's considered excellent. Our state aid as a percentage of the municipal budget is only 3.6%. The risk threshold for your tax levy is if being less than 60% is considered excellent. We are at 55%. Our unreserved fund balance as a percentage of budget, this is where we shine significantly. The article said if anything greater than 8% is considered excellent, we are at 33%. And then our debt service as a percentage of total budget, less than 5% is considered excellent. Prior to the water sale, it was 21%. That is a very problematic figure for the borough. That would have been significantly problematic if the water sale didn't go through. And now that number, well, not now, but at the end of June and next year's budget, that number will be 0. With that, that's the end of my presentation.
Jerry and Diane, you've been having us for years and very dear to me here, but really appreciative of the work this year of everyone, and particularly, we chatted about a little educational piece here, and I just really appreciate putting this together. So,
and this was, we were under state review this year. Every third year, you're under state review, and they went through, they examined revenues, appropriations, surplus usage, statutory calculation. They ensure that your budget's balanced, compliant, and fiscally responsible. And we got our approval last week with corrections or adjustments.
Good job, thank you.
Well done.
And that last slide there, I feel like that's all you over the years, so. Excellent, impressive.
So I believe our next, we have a public hearing. I will take a motion to open the
Public hearing.
The floor for a public hearing. I'll take hopefully have a motion to have a budget.
Sorry, I have to go. You're a rock star. Thank you so much. You're amazing. You nailed it. Jerry, also rock star, same art. Happy Mother's Day. Also.
I'll take a motion to.
Make the motion, I take.
Thank you, sorry.
You'll bring it.
Yes,
Do we have
I'll
a-
take
do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, the floor is now open for those in person and online to ask questions, comments. This is a public hearing on our 2026 municipal budget. Not seeing anyone raised to the front or no hands raised, I will take a motion to close the floor and hearing on our 2026 municipal budget. That's Deb's with the first, we have a second.
Second.
I will, that's Paul for a second.
Thank you.
I'm learning the facial, who's here.
Motion to adopt.
Yeah, I'll take a motion to, adopt our municipal budget. Do I have, all right, Sherry, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Deb, a second?
Krista, you're still here. I'm gonna call your name for this vote to pass the budget.
Krista.
Uh-oh.
Okay, Mr. Buda,
Yes.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Steeler,
Yes.
Ms. Wallenius.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Again, Diane, thank you. Jerry, thank you. Everyone on your team, finance committee,
Great team.
much appreciated, and particularly for sticking out, Michelle reading this earlier, but, much appreciated. Next, we've got our consent agenda, item 13. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 resolutions. Items 2026, 56 through 59. If anyone would like to pull one out for further discussion or to be voted separately, maybe informally make that known. Otherwise, I will take a motion to move these 4 resolutions in bulk.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Right. Roll call.
Mr. Buda,
Yes.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Steeler, Ms. Wallenius.
Yes.
I'll just note for C and D, I think we did public hearings in this last month, but ultimately, you know, the borough is very interested in supporting through possible liquor sales, and so this kind of starts the process for theaters, both nonprofit and for-profit, for applying for what the state's made is kind of an extra liquor license fee. So that is now beginning.
Exciting.
Item 14, I will take a motion for our bill list.
Motion. Good.
I was gonna say so moved. I can second it.
Heidi first,
Second it.
oh, sorry.
Deb
Deb first, Heidi second.
Mr. Buda,
Yes.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Ms. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Steeler,
Yes.
Ms. Wallenius.
Yes.
We never approved the minutes, by the way.
Thank you. I will, still getting used to the new format here. So why don't we, let's skip back now to, item 8, where we kind of left the script earlier this evening and do our council liaison reports. Paul, if you wanna go first?
Yep, so continuing the work on fixing ordinances. And hopefully I'm gonna have something for next meeting. So we can think about the wording, especially with our professionals, and get that moved. The big one is the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, and then the other one is just fixing things like setbacks and little annoying things that shouldn't be there. Make our town more user friendly. On this front with the senior advisory board, there's a newsletter that comes out for seniors, and I'm not sure it makes its way to Hopewell Borough. It does.
It's up-
Because I was
it's
told,
upstairs.
but
Upstairs.
a lot of even like people that are living
Like me?
don't even know it exists.
I
So-
didn't know until I saw it this week
You know,
in Canton
These
building.
little meetings happen, you know, but I think we need a better way of letting people, seniors know what's happening.
I agree.
You know, Pennington seems to be so far away from here.
Can you
even
put
though-
it in the library maybe? Like.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
looking to,
Something with communication.
because a lot of events are coming up.
Yeah.
There's a senior
That's
dance
a-
party, there's a high
Is there,
school social.
is there a soft copy that can go on the
Yes.
website?
So
Yeah, maybe we can do that.
it is what, it's available by email as well as mail. So there is on the senior portion of the website, there is I think information on how to sign up.
Okay.
It's excellent, you know, there is kind of applauding our shared services. Honestly, our senior coordinator is rock star. There's a lot of great programming that honestly I don't think people realize, including transportation. And a lot of the things actually do have some transportation options, which is good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. How do you want to go next?
Sure. So open space, I was unfortunately not able to attend this one, so I will fill everybody in after the next one. For the green team, we will be at the farmers market this Sunday from 9 to 1. For the first time this year, we will be there every second Sunday collecting hard to recycle items. I will mention that the green team members who tried to promote this on the community Facebook pages keep getting booted by the Facebook bot, not by the Facebook, not by the administrators. So we are having a little struggle getting the word out. Do tell your friends. We will be at the farmers market. And we do still collect the plastic film at Borough Hall. And we are always welcoming new volunteers. And in fact, our next meeting is Tuesday, May 12th. So it is next week at Gazebo Park. In case of bad weather, we will be back at the Little Red Library, but it's a really nice way to meet us. It is bring your own chair to Gazebo Park. And join the green team. We also like to start putting out at this time of year reminders about the yard sale. It is a great event. It's great fun to put stuff on your curb and let it go for free. But if you put good stuff out on your curb and it doesn't go for free, the Hopewell Valley Green Team has great resources on their website for ways you can dispose of those items get those items off to other homes rather than going on a trash truck. And to keep in mind the weather, and if things get left in the rain, they often get ruined and then have to trash. And then the other, while not an official borough capacity, we do want to serve a reminder from the Downtown Hopewell group that our mocktail call is this Saturday. Wear your best raincoat or your umbrella. Ticket sales are a little down because of the weather. But we have 12 participating businesses with all proceeds going to the Sauerland Conservancy. It is a lot of fun, and raincoats, they work. So thank you.
Thank you. Anthony, what next?
Yeah, sure. So the Board of Health met on April 22nd here at Borough Hall. The health officer mentioned about loss of federal funding for public health initiatives. This is because the current administration is clawing back a lot of COVID-related programs, and so that money just disappears, unfortunately. Doesn't have an immediate impact on the borough, but he did mention that it has an impact across the state because we're seeing, for example, vaccination rates dropping. So measles are now down to 91%. And the herd immunity rate is 95%. So it's even in our state, it's a challenge. It's going to sound like a real non sequitur, but we also talked about cat colonies. So I know that that's sometimes a big issue for neighbors in town. They may find cat colonies a real nuisance. So the rules we follow are actually quite standard across municipalities. Many other towns are the same as we are in terms of what's permitted and how these are regulated. Now, in fact, the animal control officer has been out to the borough a couple of times lately and has confirmed that the known colonies are properly managed according to public health rules. So I know that doesn't satisfy some of the concerns that neighbors have, but from a regulations perspective, everything seems to be the way it should be at this moment. And then finally, as I'm doing a smorgasbord of issues here, the board also asked me to remind everyone that they are interested to hear of potential candidates to fill the alternate positions that we created. So,
thank you so much, Sherry.
The EDC met and are discussing putting up boulevard banners on the lamp posts. So similar to some other towns around, which would look really nice. So that's in the works. And they created a flyer to hand out to businesses and the public just for awareness, because I think there's a lack of that right now. Fire department had 37 calls last month. EMS had 56 calls. I sadly missed the pancake breakfast, but I hear it was a success. Donations are accepted year round if you can get your pancakes, so I gotta drop mine off. And let's see, Shade Tree Committee had a successful kindergarten planting. You can visit the new tree right in the entrance of the post office. I would describe it as a lot of effort, not very much efficiency with kindergartners shoveling dirt. But Starling Conservancy very efficiently delivered a beautiful red bud that we planted on Seminary because the old one died. And this is a friendly reminder, if you have a dog, just don't pee on new trees because it kills them.
Kills
So,
them?
yeah, we got the watering covered, we don't need dogs.
Thank you. Right. Deb, let me know when you want to do the.
Yeah, we can start that now. So, the grounds and the building committee or building and grounds committee is very excited to talk about the, we're beginning to fix up the playgrounds in town. Right now we're focusing on the one at the Tot Lot. Alan and the DPW team, along with Jerry, have been prioritizing fixing up the Tot Lot near the train station. We're trying to get it in good shape for the summer. The entire structure has been power washed to remove years of dirt, mildew, and lichen growth. The plans are to remove all the rotten boards at the base of the surrounding fence structure and replace them with new painted pressure treating wood. I think we have some photos of
So,
those.
you have to let me know when you want.
Yeah,
Me to switch.
we can start with the,
Oh, yeah.
well, in a minute here, yeah. So, the fence posts are being reattached, replaced, or repaired as needed. The rotting turret structure is being replaced and repaired. We've installed 2 new swings. There are recognition tiles that are on there from the original build back in 2009. We've been able to dig some of those up at the DPW building, and we're probably gonna order some more, and replace those. We're looking at maybe something that's not so breakable by kids throwing stones, we'll see. And then we plan to add a lot of mulch, depending how much we could afford, to create a soft landing wherever possible. So these are the before and after photos for the quoits and horseshoes area. The boxes for some of them were badly deteriorated and they're all low on sand. So they replaced 2 of the frames with pressure treated lumber, and they're gonna add sand right before the June 6th event, so that will be part of the games that will be available for families during the USA 250th event on June 6th. Then I think we have some pictures. These are the next pictures of the tables and the trash cans that looked like they were a million years old. They now look really nice and clean, so you can actually eat on them and not worry about getting sick. The next one is showing some of the mildew and damage to the fences, especially on the right, you can see it. Here's some more before photos of the rotten wood at the bottom on the left. That's the turret piece that's missing. I actually got that fixed by someone, and then Alan's gonna replace it. And the train, that's supposed to be a train there, is badly in need of paint, right? Here's, next slide is more pictures of before and after pressure washing. I don't say not the exact same angle, but you can see how much cleaner it is. The next big step, and I've sent out an email about that to about 40 members of the original volunteer group. We're gonna actually start painting the structure on Monday, and every day through next week. So we're trying to get some volunteers to help that. We have a few, but if anybody likes to paint, you can show up at 9 o'clock at the Tot Lot in your paint clothes. And the borough will be providing paint brushes, frog tape, drop cloths, that kind of thing. So, and we're gonna try to make it kid-friendly now, as far as the nice bright colors. All next week, Monday through Friday, but it's work days, it makes it hard, you know. So that's that on that. So we'll share more progress photos in June. We're hoping to get it done by the middle of the summer, if not by the end of June. So that's buildings and grounds. As far as recreation committee, we have cruise night happening on the 15th. How do you want to mention the mocktail to all, or if that's? Okay, I wasn't sure if you.
Unfortunately, it's gonna rain.
But
we're
it's Saturday and we're gonna wear our raincoats, and it's not raining inside the shops where they're serving the mocktails.
Okay, yeah, it's gonna be a fun day. June 6th, we've got the big USA 250th anniversary of the signing of Declaration of Independence. And also it's the 135th anniversary of the incorporation of Hopewell Borough. So we are basically throwing a big party for the town, $2.50 to have a sumptuous meal catered by Brick Farm Tavern. And lots of fun history events, a lot of activities for kids. And there's a tour to, through the cemetery, to the John Hart Monument. So it should be a really, really fun day. Anything else you want to throw in about that?
All the events and the tour and the music, that's all free.
Everything's free.
So it's, if
Yeah.
you want to eat, it's just too.
The $2.50 to eat is basically so we know how much food to order, right? It's just like a way to track. And then at night around 6:30, everybody's gonna eat, and then kind of the block party part starts. So Castle Lane will be playing, there'll be a beer garden. And it goes to runs till 10 o'clock. So get your tickets, should be really fun, kid friendly, family friendly, and then fun at night for adults or whomever.
So Deb, I don't know if we've done an email on that. Would you mind summarizing how to be?
Yes.
Get tickets and be involved in the details, and we'll
Yeah.
make sure we get it out in our.
Yeah, and I think Jerry added some of it to his website today, right, on the event page, but yes, we definitely need, yeah, so thank you. Just want to throw a little thing out there to support the theater. Now that it's open, everybody's been very excited about getting it reopened, but we'll have to show up and buy tickets and go to business, right, to have it continue to succeed. Memorial Day Parade is coming up on the 24th. And
what time does it start? I never know.
Starts at 1.
Yeah.
Closes about 12:30.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned earlier, but the library and the Recreation Committee are co-hosting an event about e-bikes. And that will be on June 10th, I believe, at Presbyterian Church. I lost my date.
What time is that?
7 o'clock. And to talk to everybody about the new laws, we're having brochures made, I think I said earlier, in Spanish and English. We're partnering with all the community groups in town that interact with the Hispanic community, because they're the largest users of e-bikes, you know, for their transport to work. Also, we want to make sure the kids know, you know, there's a lot more limitations now. You have to be 15, you have to wear a helmet, you have to have a license, you have to have insurance, registration, much more complicated. So it should be a good event, and we want everybody, all the parents that might think about getting their kids an e-bike this summer, to be aware of the rules. Because unfortunately, there was just another death in Princeton a couple weeks ago on near Cherokee Orchard. So tragic stuff. We want to avoid that. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, I'll try to be quick. Couple of county meetings, including the workshop I attended in early this month on the county's sustainability plan for their master plan on June 6th. Also, that is our First Responders Awards at Woolsey Park. Honored to be recognizing one of our EMS members, as well as the junior program. Are of the many amazing things our fire department does is attracting both new members and young people into volunteerism. So really honored to recognize them. For mayor's hours, this is when I am just here at town hall or some other place. So always check the website. Sometimes it travels. But Saturday we'll be here, and there will be coffee that no one will drink. But if you want coffee, come on at 9 a.m. here at Borough Hall. Then again, it's also on Wednesday afternoons at lunchtime, so 1 o'clock on every other Wednesday. That'll be next Wednesday. Also next Wednesday, as noted before, is the first of many are going to be informal listening sessions about our administrator showed the numbers, but ultimately after we finished selling our water system this summer, everything that we had spent on paying off on our debt service, our mortgage payments essentially, will not be going there, and we'll have some options as a community to decide what our priorities are, and we're committed as a governing body to get as much input on what these priorities are. So for the first one, will be a very brief, a little bit of background on some of the things that the borough has been tracking as in priorities that we should be thinking about, but really it's just an opportunity, the first of many opportunities. It'll be at different times, different places, as was asked before. We're going to get an electronic way to get comments in, but we want to leave no stone unturned about how what things our community wants us to prioritize, and affordability items are amongst those as well. Memorial Day ceremony is coming up on the 23rd, also at Woolsey Park. Noted the parade is Sunday here on the 27th. I want to thank the fire department for organizing and keeping that tradition. I think I noted 13th, as well as, I'm sorry, a listening session, I already mentioned. So with that, Jerry, if you want to go, mention anything.
Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry, the Mike Ray is having a bike decoration, forum before the parade starts, so we weren't finished that for the kids, decorate the bikes for the parades. Sorry.
Yep. So next item is our administrator's report. Jerry, anything you want to highlight?
Thank you, Mayor. My report is in your packet today. I'll just touch on a couple quick things. As we mentioned earlier, the paving from Elizabethtown Gas will start on May 18th. And there'll be a significant amount of paving that will be completed as per their plans on May 21st. They're in the process of doing outreach. They have indicated to us that they would be reaching out to the police department and our emergency service personnel just to ensure that they're aware of everything that's going on. Since our last meeting, we had a personnel committee meeting. We're in the process of kind of modernizing and updating our personnel manual. Some of us have submitted some comments to the attorney for review. You know, I wouldn't say it's the most pressing issue because you've had it this way for quite some time, and we only have a handful of full-time employees, but nonetheless, there's some outdated issues in there, things that, laws have changed, statutes have changed, and just some insight other people have as we, become more modern in that regard. So hopefully within the next meeting or two, we'll have some updates for the council to have the opportunity to vote on, because you would vote on any changes to the personnel manual policies and procedures. Since our last meeting, we've received $683,000 grant from the Historic Trust for the railroad station. We're still waiting on a couple of, I think $80,000 in architect fees, and that will be submitted to us as soon as we install the historic plaque on the train station, which we did order and is in process. I put the text of that in my report, so I won't read through that. Tonight's meeting was the first meeting that on our end, we used our new agenda management system to create the agenda. So you're not really using it on your end, other than just seeing the final product. I can tell you that it saved just an enormous amount of time. So I thank you for your support of that purchase. Probably created the initial agenda in less than a half an hour with all these documents. And then the updates as they came were significantly easier, as we were not printing out scanned documents every time we did an update. So thank you again for your support of that endeavor. I think by next week, I'll have all the full training done, and you'll have the ability to be paperless with your laptops and have a view that only you would see. It'll be easy to track what you're doing, make notes on your side. Lastly, the website is very close to being done. I don't know if you want to put that on the screen and talk about a softball, but it's late, so we won't have to go through that.
I'm, let's just all nighter.
So it is live. It's not using our main URL. When we actually go live, we'll be using our new Hopewell Borough NJ.gov email URL, which we will use for our emails as well at some point shortly. So you can see this live. We're not advertising it that much, other than you all who are providing some insight. We'll be sending it out to some of the stakeholders in the next couple of days, so they can provide some insight. But this is it. A lot of work. A lot of learning. It's not the most intuitive CMS, but it's one that I eventually figured out. And I think you all know, when you're working on stuff like this, the mayor certainly knows from using the website for so long. I mean, there was one day I was making all the updates and changes. I got here at 8 in the morning. I looked up, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't even leave the website. So it definitely takes a lot of time. I only realized I started getting busy because I hadn't. But this is it. Thank you for all your input so far. We look forward to your continued input. You'll see the entire calendar from the rec flyer has been put in there. So every event from now to December is in there. Just take the feedback.
Sure. Thank you. And for those of council, if you still, like there's a link in your inbox, do take a look at your, if you haven't yet, take a look at your committee's pages to try to help us identify as many things that need to be fixed or updated before we, start a more public launch, which it plans we're ready to do quite soon, which is very, very exciting. Next, oddly, as one of our last things, are minutes from our April 6th meeting. I'll take a motion on that.
Move to approve.
I move. Do I have a second?
I'll say, I'm good.
I think Sherry won that race, that's what I'm hearing. All in favor, for a roll call on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, any abstentions? Thank you. Next and then last, our second public comment section. There's now no one online, but if you're in person, please come on up. And we try to limit the second one to 3 minutes, but again, we haven't really done much of limiting folks time wise. So, Chief,
Jason Reed, Chief of the SWAT Fire Department. Grateful for the committee's, council's engagement. The new website looks phenomenal, world class. If we could have a conspicuous link to volunteer opportunities with the fire and rescue squad, it would be great. But it really looks great. Thanks to the borough administrator and to anyone else who has been contributing to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Nothing on rushing to the front, no one online. I will take a motion to close this final public comment section of the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, that is Deb and Paul. All in favor? Next, I will take a motion to think about, considering that there's no debate or discussion. I'm contemplating looking for a motion. I first, we have a second.
I'll say.
And the second, all in favor. Thank you, everyone.